10:02, good morning from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Downs studio. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Brendan Sorsby eligibility saga at Texas Tech appears to have come to an end as the quarterback announced Monday he will enter the NFL supplemental draft. Sorsby was granted an injunction against the NCAA that did clear a path for him to play this season, despite an admitted past of gambling on college sports, including on his own team during his time at Indiana. The NCAA and Big 12 were seeking avenues to reverse that ruling. Instead, Sorsby is going to take his talents to the pro ranks. Titans minicamp gets underway today. Head coach Robert Saleh set to meet with the media before practice coming up in a little under 15 minutes. And World Cup action yesterday, Cape Verde pulled a shocker, holding tournament favorite Spain to a scoreless draw in Atlanta. The action begins today at 2 p.m. with France taking on Senegal in New Jersey. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Happy minicamp. The first minicamp of the Robert Saleh Titans era gets underway today. The head coach will speak coming up at 10:15. Lucas and Robert with you until 1 o'clock. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, and there is much to discuss. You will hear from the Titans head coach later on in the show. There are Titans topics today, including one free agent that the Titans are working out, taking a look at ahead of minicamp. But the headline of the sports world today is that college sports, college football specifically, at least in the meantime, isn't quite yet hitting rock bottom. And we'll take what we can get at this point. We'll take every win with how disastrous college athletics has been, with how unsustainable the lack of guardrails and the environment and all of the chaos that we talk about every single day, it seems. Robert, it felt like we avoided a bottoming out moment yesterday with the news that Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby is headed to the supplemental NFL draft before ever taking a snap as a Texas Tech Red Raider.
That's got to be a big weight off his shoulders, right? I don't have to deal with all these people. I don't have to worry about how the fans of other conferences are going to take me playing. I don't have to listen to the crowd if I suck. I'm just going to the NFL.
They decided it's just not worth the fight at this point. And I don't know if they were surprised at the backlash. It seems like they were surprised at the amount of backlash, which is kind of an insane thing to me. It seems like Texas Tech, I'm sure they were anticipating some level of pushback, but it's hard to not discern that Texas Tech did not anticipate every single party around them, other Big 12 institutions, the Big 12 conference itself, doing everything in their power to make sure this is something that can't happen. The Big 12 getting involved from a legal standpoint, despite pressure from the Texas Attorney General telling the Big 12 not to try and supersede a legal decision that happened in the state of Texas. That is probably the thing I am most awestruck by in this whole situation. Not the fact that they tried to get him eligible, not even the fact that a local Lubbock County judge that even had no ties to Texas Tech granted him that injunction, as shocking as that may be. It appears as though Texas Tech did not anticipate this level of pushback. And so they're waving the white flag. Brendan Sorsby is waving the white flag, and he's off to the supplemental draft. And the rest of us look at that and say, good riddance. Thank goodness we're not going to have a quarterback playing for the Big 12 favorites that admitted to gambling on his own team while a student athlete at Indiana. This close. I mean, it really looked like it was going to happen. We will at the very, very least avoid seeing that happen. Welcome into the show. We are on 104.5 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. You can also jump in at 615-737-1045 to give your thoughts, because there are a lot of offshoots to this conversation. Number one, how we got to this point, which we'll rehash here in a little bit. Number 2, potential fits for Brendan Sorsby. Which NFL teams will be interested in Brendan Sorsby? Will he face any discipline from the NFL? There is precedent of that for players going into the supplemental draft, something that does not happen very often. Will there be another Brendan Sorsby in college athletics that tries to go this route despite it ultimately not working out for the former Indiana and Cincinnati and Texas Tech quarterback without ever playing a snap for Texas Tech?
Why don't we start with Jack Longley's comment in the F&M Bank chat? It's going to be as bad, if not worse, in the NFL. He's in for an exempt list for a year, then an suspension. So, I mean, do you agree with that? How do you feel like that impacts his supplemental draft? I've seen people putting out their supplemental mocks, and when they think he's going to go, we've got some audio from Field Yates, who breaks the situation down pretty eloquently. We'll play later in the show, but how do you think it's impacted with him going to the NFL? Roger Goodell's not just going to sit by and let this guy get off scot-free, right?
Yeah, all eyes were on, I think, Brett Yormark and the Big 12, right, when they find that legal loophole, and then everybody turned to Yormark and said, what are you going to do about it? You going to let this happen on your turf? You're going to let this happen in your conference? And as we mentioned, the Big 12 filed legislation yesterday, or filed a complaint in a federal court in Dallas for a declaratory judgment, which would give the league the ability to enforce its bylaws despite the injunction that was granted to Brendan Sorsby, which I'm sure the state of Texas would have had issue with. Like, it was gearing up to get messy and drag on. So this does feel like the right decision. Finally, a good decision by people involved in this thing for Brendan Sorsby to just say, you know what? It's not worth the fight. Let me just go to the NFL. Who knew? Who knew that this would create a giant convoluted mess and that people would do everything in their power to prevent this from happening? Clearly not Texas Tech. So we try to move on from here, try to figure out what we learned. And what I'm curious about, Robert, is how Texas Tech is viewed from here on out, or at least the people involved with Texas Tech. Cody Campbell, billionaire booster, who has been a huge reason for their success in this NIL era. Texas Tech shot straight up in terms of their competitiveness because of the level of investment that was made by people like Cody Campbell. Last year, they were Big 12 champions. They were in the college football playoff. So they do deserve credit for that. But now there is a tinge of disgust, I think, towards that whole athletic department. The athletic director, head coach Joey McGuire, who I think has been very highly regarded since he took over at Texas Tech. He took the road less traveled. He's a former high school coach in Texas. But I wonder if Texas Tech did some pretty permanent damage to their reputation among their colleagues across college football.
That is interesting. I just wonder, okay, what part about it do you think caused the most damage to their persona in college football? The fact that they still went against the grain and said, nope, we're going to fight the courts and we're going to let this guy play. Is that the biggest mark against them? Because I think you could make the argument that college football teams have been doing that forever. Not the same situation, but have been putting themselves before the conference and all the other teams, like McDonald's bags full of money. Like, did that change how people looked at Tennessee? Someone talked about SMU in the chat earlier. Like, how long did the stink stay on SMU from when they were recruiting and paying all these high-dollar players back when they did it? How long did that stink stay on SMU? I think stuff like this ends up washing off of them. Where, like, to make an NFL comparison, a lot of people, when the Ravens nixed the trade with Max Crosby, oh, this is going to cause irreparable harm. No one's going to do a deal with the Ravens. No one was going to want to trade with them. But then it was reported they had a number of trade opportunities during the NFL draft. The teams still stayed in contact with them. So I agree with you that it probably affected their outside outlook. But I also don't know how long that sticks around. I feel like we're going to have a new villain in college football. Something else is going to happen. We're going to be mad at somebody else, and then it's all going to wash away. But, again, I'm not as deep in the weeds in college football as you are.
No, yeah, you're right. We've talked about this with Alabama and the Charles Bediako situation, certainly with Will Wade and the way he has put together his roster at LSU. Kind of this don't hate the player, hate the game discussion where you have slime balls in college athletics. So don't be upset when slime balls do slime ball things because the door is sitting there wide open with no consequences for you to do those things if it puts you and your team in the best position to succeed. But even still, even despite all of the chaos and programs not even bending rules, because at this point, there are no rules to be bent. You just hop right over the rules. This still felt like something that we were still far away from, Robert. Like the idea of the integrity of the game being affected that much, a player doing the biggest no-no outside of serious crimes, the biggest thing that you just can't do is gamble on your team, gamble on your sport, and still continue to play. Like, that just feels like a cardinal rule. That's beyond teams finding loopholes to go get guys that didn't exhaust all their college eligibility and bring them back down from the pro ranks. That's beyond any loophole, NIL money, Chick-fil-A or McDonald's bags with cash in it. This feels like a place that even the most pessimistic of us thought, well, no, we'll never get to that point. And then we did. And it was the blasé approach to it by Texas Tech that we talked about on the show yesterday that Joey McGuire said, well, it's not like he murdered anybody.
I mean, and that's why I'm kind of jaded on the conversation, because everyone's so worried about integrity, the integrity of the league. They're only worried about that because of the betting partners. Like, oh, we can't have people betting on the league because that is going to impact how much betting money comes in. If people think that players or coaches or referees have the ability to fix the game, okay, that's what we're worried about. But then if someone causes the loss of life in a car accident, it can be swept under the rug for 2 years. There's no penalty in college football, and the guy ends up being a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Like, it just feels like our priorities are out of whack with this. Like, but again, money is the overwhelming ruler of everything nowadays, so there ain't nothing you can do about it. But it does seem like, okay, why can't we have this? Oh, because people would stop betting. People would stop spending money and trusting our league.
Yeah, for sure. No,
that's kind of backwards.
For people in power, that is the issue. But I think for college football fans as a whole, there is an integrity of the game issue there, where college football fans don't care about people's pocketbooks being hurt because of gambling endorsements potentially being affected by this. They care about the idea of a player having those insider trading routes to gamble on his own team and still get to play. They care about there not being any consequences to something like this that literally got Pete Rose banned from the sport of baseball.
No, I agree with that. Because even at its core, he wasn't if he was the quarterback playing in the games and was like, you know what? I'm going to shave a couple yards off I'm not going to scramble here and take my under on rushing yards. He wasn't even playing. Like, he had impartial info, but I know I'm not the picture of health for this. Everyone's going to be against me on this. But I still don't see it being that big of an issue, other than the fact that you can't gamble on your own team. Well, I understand that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the one playing.
No, but that doesn't matter, though. It's
like Jonte Porter was playing and actively shaving
point shaving.
No, and that's why he's blackballed from the NBA.
This wasn't a point-shaving situation. No, it's just about the precedent that it could set for a point-shaving situation. Yes, you're right. Like, Brendan Sorsby did not gamble on games that he played in. He gambled on Indiana football games while he was a redshirt quarterback at Indiana. But if that player can find a loophole to still continue to play football, then the player that did gamble on games he actually participated in can find a loophole to continue to play football. You get a good lawyer, you get the right judge, and boom, you're on the field. You're playing. It's more about the precedent that it sets and the window that it would have opened for other people to say, well, if he can do it, we're good. This is all, nobody's getting punished for anything out here. I think it could have been something that broke the sport.
If a player, a quarterback that was playing at a prominent program was betting on his team, you would hope that guy would be buried. He would literally never have the opportunity to play. Like, you wouldn't hope that it would go this far in the courts. Like, I feel like that was the only argument for Sorsby even getting like an inch of relief in this, was because he had the outlet of, he didn't impact games. Like, even though he knows the ins and outs and what they're trying to do with the offense or what have you, he still wasn't impacting games. If there was somebody who was doing that and impacting games, yeah, that guy should be buried.
Well, sure, but okay, like Jack says in the F&M Bang chat, he wasn't playing, but he knew the play calls, he knew the game plan, he knew who would get the ball and who wouldn't. So can Brendan Sorsby bet the over on a particular player because he knows the game plan is going to revolve around this particular player, which is something other people don't know. So there's that aspect of it. But more than anything for me, it is the precedent that, yes, a player that participated in point shaving We saw it in college basketball. I mean, literally, we just saw multiple players get suspended for the rest of the year that will likely never play another minute of college basketball again because they were participating in point shaving. Players at lower level schools that weren't getting that kind of NIL money and had a bag waiting for them if, they held up a little bit and made sure their team scored under 80 points or whatever.
Yeah, what school was that? Like the Mafia was
There's so
in
many.
on it?
There's so many. Kennesaw State was one. I mean, there were so many schools that were a part of that.
And again, I'm not saying it's right. Like they shouldn't. I agree with you that it's not right. I just think the penalty should be even for the scale of the crime is all I'm saying. Like in the grand scheme of things, gambling on a game is not nearly as impactful as the loss of life.
Of course.
Something like that. Like it feels like we turn our head to those things, but then as soon as the money is impacted, it's, this is DEFCON 5. We got to sound the alarms. Like I just think the compromise should be a little closer on things that are more devastating than what gambling is.
Well, and as horrible as this is, because to reduce the impact of something actually criminal that results in injury or loss of life is insane. But that is what we do in sports, isn't it? How many players are able to get back onto the field? We talked about it yesterday with James Pierce. He's back there at minicamp. He's not even having to answer questions. He's not available to the media. He's just back. No problem. Multiple felonies committed. Things that would put any regular citizen in prison for years. But he's going to go through a therapy program, and he's back on the field, and he'll continue to play for the Falcons and make millions. But as awful as it is, the truth of the James Pierce situation is nothing about what he did off the field with that ugly situation impacts the integrity of a Falcons game or an NFL game. So maybe the NFL suspends James Pierce, but they'll let the legal process play out. Obviously, he gets beneficial treatment as a millionaire athlete. But it doesn't affect the integrity of the game. It doesn't affect the money. And it's shameful. That's where we are as a society. But the Brendan Sorsby situation was the ultimate test of, are you willing to just completely throw away the integrity of this game that people spend tons of money on to go to games, advertisers, that people emotionally and financially invest in year after year? We're just going to throw that out the window just because we're in this mess and because you got a good lawyer that gave you the ability to do that. And that set such a dangerous precedent that I'm happy it seems has not been set any longer because Brendan Sorsby won't be playing for Texas Tech this year. Now, the question is where we go from here and what does this look like for Brendan Sorsby in the supplemental draft? We'll talk about that coming up next. All right, so how did we get to this point? Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. In case you missed it, Brendan Sorsby has declared for the NFL supplemental draft, which is not something that we, honestly, until this situation, I don't think we've ever even referenced the NFL supplemental draft. It happens far and few between that players actually get selected from it. There has not been a legitimately high-profile star out of college football taken in the supplemental draft since Terrell Pryor? I mean, is that as far back as we have to go, coming out in 2011, where he was taken by the Raiders in the third round of the supplemental draft, and that's because his eligibility was impacted by Tattoo-gate, getting free memorabilia, all of these things at Ohio State, which pales in comparison to the stuff that we feel like we deal with now in college athletics. Josh Gordon is another notable one whose eligibility was impacted because of smoking weed. And he ended up obviously having those issues continue to carry over and affect his NFL career. But it doesn't happen often. And Brendan Sorsby is the biggest name that we've had in the supplemental draft in quite some time. But a quick rehash of how we got to this point before we discuss potential landing spots and what happens next for Brendan Sorsby. So in 2025, Sorsby enjoys a successful season at Cincinnati. He's a semifinalist for the Davey O'Brien Trophy, awarded to the best quarterback in the country. And he's a hot commodity in the transfer portal. January 4th of this year, Sorsby commits to Texas Tech, a reported $5 million NIL figure, approximately. And remember, Tennessee was in on Brendan Sorsby. The Vols were trying to get Brendan Sorsby on campus. He had some connections to Tennessee. He had friends in Knoxville. He said he had gone to Tennessee games as a kid and felt like he could have been a good fit in that Josh Heupel offense. He's a dual-threat quarterback. He's a gunslinger. It doesn't work out for Tennessee. He goes to Texas Tech. He had ties there as well. I believe his girlfriend was going to play volleyball at Texas Tech. So he commits to the Red Raiders, and they are the overwhelming Big 12 favorites, which, for what it's worth, they still are. Texas Tech, despite this, are still the favorites to win the Big 12 this year, but that's besides the point. Then April 27th, Brendan Sorsby checks himself into rehab for a sports gambling addiction. That makes national news. May 18th, the NCAA officially rules him ineligible for the 2026 season. May 26th, Sorsby is denied request for reinstatement by the NCAA. And in the meantime, Sorsby admits to placing over $90,000 in bets over that 4-year span, including wagers on his own team while he was a player at Indiana. Again, as we pointed out before, Sorsby did not gamble on games that he participated in as a backup quarterback at Indiana. Also, besides the point. But we were all operating under the assumption, the reasonable assumption, that Brendan Sorsby was not going to play football. Because of course you can't play football. And to Robert's point, I agree. You also should not be able to just go back to playing football after committing multiple felonies that would have any average citizen in prison for years. The Rashee Rice situation, the James Pierce situation. It does happen time and time again in college athletics and in professional sports that players, because of their abilities and their value to their teams, will get treatment in the legal system that regular people will not. And it's wrong. And I think the premise of your argument, Robert, is not that Brendan Sorsby should be allowed to play football and that people should be allowed to gamble on the sport that they play in, but just that the outrage should be placed just as much on players that get to overcome those legal situations that they should be held accountable for but are not because of their talents. That the outrage should be placed on those players as much as it is Sorsby. Is that kind of summing up what you're saying?
Yeah, 100%. And never even, I'm not making the argument that this guy should get off scot-free in any situation.
Like, you don't believe Brendan Sorsby should be allowed to play football this year?
No, not even in the NFL. I don't think that he's going to get a chance to play, like, if he gets drafted in the supplemental draft. I don't think he should be able to. The punishment matches the crime. I just think other punishments should match the other crimes.
Yes.
We put in what seems like an inflated sense of worth into this because it's about the money, when in reality there is a deflated sense of worth to everything else that doesn't impact money. That was my only point.
Yes. Now, do not misconstrue what Robert is saying and saying that Sorsby, what he did isn't that big of a deal because he didn't play in the games. Who cares if he plays? Yeah, I get what you're saying. And you're right about that. But just looking at this situation in a vacuum, we move on. June 5th, the NCAA denies Texas Tech's appeal for reinstatement. And again, we're all under the assumption there's no way this guy plays football in 2026 for Texas Tech. And then June 8th, 8 days ago, feels like weeks ago, a Lubbock County judge by the name of Ken Curry grants an injunction that clears the path for Brendan Sorsby to play for Texas Tech in 2026, and all hell breaks loose. The outrage begins. The NCAA files its appeal. The Texas Tech spin statements begin, hiding behind mental health, that this is the best thing for Brendan Sorsby as he recovers from his addiction. We also know that Cincinnati essentially pointed this out and reported Brendan Sorsby's gambling activity, which stands to reason that's one major reason why he took this public and decided to go into a rehab facility instead of trying to sweep it under the rug, which you would imagine most any other student athlete would do, or certainly any institution would do in that instance. So he's granted the injunction, and we've been talking about it for the past week. Yesterday, the Big 12, despite pressure from the Texas Attorney General not to, files a complaint in federal court in Dallas for a declaratory judgment, which would give the league the ability to enforce its bylaws. So the Big 12, after hearing out its other member institutions, tries everything it can to stand up to one of its member institutions and say, no, this just can't happen on our watch. Because then that permeates up to Brett Yormark, and that's a part of Brett Yormark's legacy. That's the first thing people think of with Brett Yormark, and he understands that. You're the commissioner that let this happen on your watch. So respect to the Big 12, first of all, for trying to fight this despite pressure from the Attorney General of Texas. Not to mention there are athletic departments, schools that now are saying they refuse to play Texas Tech in any sport. Ross Dellinger had this yesterday. The University of Michigan has canceled a scheduled volleyball match against Texas Tech, and Michigan plans to hold further discussion with its athletic staff on prohibiting contests against the Red Raiders, similar to Nebraska and Georgia. And yes, most of this probably is grandstanding and, some level of performative action for schools and institutions and departments to throw their fist down on the table and make sure everybody knows how much we're against this. But at the same time, I love to see that. I love to see the pressure be put on Texas Tech here, and I hope it doesn't stop, because there should be consequences here for Texas Tech riding along with this charade. And they can hide behind the mental health statements all they want and talk about just wanting to support student athletes, and the thing that would put him in the best position to recover is to be with his teammates and get to play football this year and make millions of dollars. But I think we are all in agreement, right, that if this is not Brendan Sorsby, your multi-million-dollar quarterback, that if this is a backup tight end, is Texas Tech fighting this fight?
I don't think there's another position you would fight this for. Like,
hell no.
Even if it was a running back, a wide receiver, like they would just say, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Even if it was money, like the money was the issue, which it's not, because they have buku bucks. The money is less of an issue for them than it would be for just about anybody else, given the NIL investment their fan base has. But yeah, they wouldn't do this for anybody but someone who could impact the field like a quarterback would. So the extent of the quote-unquote blacklist against Texas Tech will be very intriguing. But I do think that they did some damage to themselves as an institution. The athletic director, the head coach, Cody Campbell. That is what Texas Tech will be associated with for quite some time now. And to be honest, I don't know anything about their quarterback situation behind Brendan Sorsby. Like I mentioned, they are still Big 12 favorites by a large margin, Robert. They are plus 100 to win the conference on FanDuel Sportsbook. The next favorite is plus 600. So there's still a wide gap there in a conference that has had some pretty good parity in this current age. But I have been encouraged by the response, even if it's grandstanding in a lot of ways. But it's grandstanding for the right reasons. I can support that. Now, what happens next for Brendan Sorsby? Because most people, myself included, don't know a damn thing about the NFL supplemental draft. Is there coverage? Is there television coverage of the supplemental draft? Are Charles Davis and Daniel Jeremiah going to get the call up to sit on a desk with Rich Eisen as we try to figure out what happens with Brendan Sorsby? Will there be any other players in the 2026 supplemental draft? This is fascinating to me. And we are going to talk about the best fits for Brendan Sorsby and if there will be any action from the NFL and how that would impact certain teams with quarterback needs and their approach
to try and bring in Brendan Sorsby. So the long and short of it, I'll let Dan Graziano basically spell it out on ESPN.com. The NFL holds a weighted lottery to determine the order of the supplemental draft. So the Raiders, who had the first pick in the April draft, get 32 hypothetical ping pong balls, while the Seahawks, who had the 32nd pick, would get one. So they break it down into three separate lotteries. One to determine the order among all the teams that won 6 or fewer games last season. A second to determine the order among teams that won more than 6 but didn't make the playoffs. And a third to determine the order among the playoff teams. So there are lotteries to figure out the supplemental draft order. It's not just what the spring draft order was. So once they establish that, teams will submit bids on players that they're interested in. So teams aren't on the clock like in the draft that we watch every year. So this is the example Graziano uses. If Pittsburgh decided they wanted Sorsby and they decided he was worth a third-round pick, they would simply submit a third-round bid. If nobody submitted a first or second-round bid and the Steelers were the only third-round bid, then they would get Brendan Sorsby. If there are multiple third-round bids, he would go to the team that finished higher in the lottery among those teams that put in a third-round bid. So if the Steelers and the Jets both submit third-round bids for Sorsby, the Jets would get him because they would have a higher quote-unquote pick in the third round. They would be lower down in that third tier of lottery because they had a worse season than the Steelers. He makes it clear no team has to submit any bids, and if no team does, Sorsby would become an undrafted free agent. He would be free to sign anywhere. What this doesn't take into consideration is potential action from the NFL. And if the NFL decides to put him on the exempt list, or if the NFL decides to go ahead and hand down a season-long ban, because surely, Robert, surely the NFL steps in some form or fashion here and doesn't let Brendan Sorsby waltz into the National Football League after leaving a chaotic scandal in his wake, especially with how the NFL has tried to crack down on gambling with its own players in the last few years.
Now, I need to double-check the timeline for this, but I don't believe in the Terrell Pryor situation he was suspended before the supplemental draft. I believe he was suspended afterwards after he had already been selected. So I wonder if they would remedy that to try to give people a better evaluation of what their pick value would be. Like if he's not going to be able to play this year, I wonder if that impacts what kind of bids would be submitted. And another thing on the submission of these picks, whatever pick you put, like in the example you had where the Steelers would submit a third-round bid, they would forfeit their 2027 third-round pick.
Yes.
In accordance with that. You don't just get a free pick. Everybody doesn't get a free pick to bid with. You still have to pay the piper. And something else that I was not aware of until this morning, you are only allowed to use native picks, meaning you cannot say the Steelers had a third-round pick from the 49ers. They would not be able to give up that pick in the supplementary draft. You can only use your own picks in the supplementary draft. Nick Court, who is a great follow on Twitter if you're into compensatory picks and evaluations and math things that I'm not smart enough nor care to put myself through the equations, he put a full list out of teams and what rounds for picks they cannot use because they don't own their picks in said rounds.
Yes. Yeah. That's a great distinction by you. So the Rams, after shipping all those picks to Cleveland, or the other way around, Cleveland, after acquiring all those picks from L.A., cannot use one of the picks that they got from the Rams in the Myles Garrett trade in the supplemental draft. You can only use the picks that originally belonged to you. And, yeah, if the Steelers do submit a third-round pick for Sorsby and they get awarded Brendan Sorsby, they forfeit their third-round pick in the upcoming 2027 draft. So there's a lot of interesting components at play here. Robert, I didn't know any of this. I had no idea how the NFL supplemental draft worked until diving in after this news that Sorsby is going to the supplemental draft. We've never had a reason to know or care. And to your point about Terrell Pryor, just the timeline on that, to go down memory lane a little bit, all of the off-field stuff started to come down after the 2010 season. In December of 2010, the NCAA ruled that Terrell Pryor and 4 of his teammates were going to be suspended for the first 5 games of 2011 as a sanction just for selling memorabilia. Then in May of 2011, Jim Tressel resigned. among this scandal. I mean, it is crazy to think back to the scandal that this was and where we are now, just 15 years later. Jim Tressel resigned in May. Terrell Pryor, in June, chose to withdraw from the university. And then on June 26, Terrell Pryor was banned from all contact with Ohio State's athletic program and new incoming recruits. And that is what caused him to become eligible for the NFL supplemental draft. So the NCAA only suspended Terrell Pryor officially for 5 games. But because he withdrew from the university amid this whole scandal, and Ohio State banned him from any contact with the football program, he became eligible for the supplemental draft. The Raiders submitted a third-round pick bid for him. They were awarded Terrell Pryor, who ended up having a career, I guess. I mean, he had 1 season in Oakland. It is crazy looking at his numbers with the Raiders. 2012, he gets on the field. 2013, he actually had 1,798 passing yards. So then he gets converted to wide receiver, where he has a 1,000-yard season in 2016 with Cleveland. Who remembers Terrell Pryor's 1,000-yard season as a receiver?
I believe he still has the longest rushing touchdown by a quarterback in NFL history. Let me double check that.
You might be right about that. And his time with Cleveland, that's the Johnny Manziel Browns, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, okay. Terrell Pryor's longest quarterback rushing touchdown was a 93-yard run against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He achieved the NFL record while playing for the Oakland Raiders. So, yes,
wow.
He still has the record for a 93-yard rushing touchdown by a quarterback.
Okay, went on to have himself a career, right? So that is I suppose, the best precedent that we have for something like this. And again, the question is, what will the NFL hand down for Sorsby? Terrell Pryor served an NFL-mandated 5-game suspension at the beginning of his rookie year. So we'll see what happens from here. What do we have to give away for what made people say, oh, no, in sports this week?
Oh, I should have checked that, shouldn't I? I should be better at my job than this. But I'm sure it's a great gift.
I'm sure it's an incredible prize.
It's always good. Anytime you tell us what made you say, oh, no, in sports, whatever you saw this weekend, maybe it was the UFC fight, maybe it was something with Brennan Sorsby, 7 days. That's all you get. Can't be outside the window of 7 days. Come on and load, goober. No prize. No prize is inserted. That's great. Let me text somebody.
615-737-1045. A mystery prize awaits whoever has the best submission for what made you say, oh, no, in sports this week.
The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help you throughout the course of the aging process, because if you're feeling tired, just kind of run down, or not like you used to, those things are natural. It's part of the aging process. Your body starts to change, but they don't have to be inevitable. And the Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help you. By the way, their Murfreesboro location officially open as of this week. 4 locations here in Middle Tennessee serving you: downtown, Franklin, Clarksville, and the borough. So congratulations on the Tennessee Men's Clinic for their success, and their success in helping so many guys get the treatment they need, whether it's testosterone treatments for ED, even peptides like NAD+. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help you through that process and give you individualized treatment, not cookie cutter like most places or online pills. Visit them online today and book your appointment with ease at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
615-737-1045, the best submission for what made you say, oh no, in sports this week. Tickets to see OAR, August 28th at First Bank Amphitheater. Gavin DeGraw will be there as well. What is the thing that had your head in your hands, that had you shaking your head and saying, oh no, in sports this week? Statute of limitations, the last 7 days. I'm just going to go with the San Antonio Spurs. And if I had to pick a specific moment, maybe it is Victor Wembanyama stepping up there and saying, we dominated for most of the series. But I'm actually going to cut him some slack on that comment because it's factual. My oh no is that the San Antonio Spurs were up for 72% of this series. They had the lead for 72% of the minutes played in 5 games of the NBA Finals.
The Cavs are like, they're the analytical champions. If you look at it, like what was the Al Gore and George Bush?
Oh, that's right.
The Cavs said that technically, if you look at the statistics, like we won the series.
That's right. It's James Harden after getting swept by the Knicks saying they were the better team. That'll make you say, oh no. When they went up 16, I was saying, oh no. I'm telling you, Robert, I promise I'm not just trying to do a thing where I say I called it. But at no point on Saturday did I feel like the Knicks were going to lose. Down 10, down 12, down 16. At no point did I think the Spurs were going to see it out. And then the inevitable happened, and the Knicks won on the road and took the NBA Finals in 5 games. One of the best 5-game NBA Finals, surely, in history, right? With the history that was made with the Knicks comeback, every game a battle. And the Spurs, talk about a gut punch, an early lead in game 1 that you give up to the Knicks. Then you win game 2. Or no, excuse me, you lose game 2 because you have a comeback effort that falls short and you throw the game away. Then you win game 3. Then it's the most historic comeback in NBA playoff or NBA Finals history in game 4. And you blow a 16-point second-half lead in game 5. Brutal.
What made me say, oh no, in sports? You didn't get to watch the UFC fight this weekend, did you? You were doing World Cup stuff?
No, I did see all of the it was insane. I mean, it was a spectacle.
The setup was really cool. Like I feel like anything associated with the White House nowadays is polarizing in certain terms. But just as a event, I thought it was really cool. The Marine band, everything was there. The fights were actually a lot better than I thought they were going to be. But what made me say, oh no, is the precedent that was set in the main event of UFC Freedom 250. It was Ilia Topuria against Justin Gaethje. Now, to set the scene, Ilia Topuria is a 29-year-old superstar in the UFC. Justin Gaethje, he is an old dog with new tricks. They call him the most unorthodox fighter, your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. This is a big opportunity for him, but he was a heavy underdog. Not a lot of people thought that Topuria would be able to, or would not be able to put Justin Gaethje away, but the way Gaethje fights, there's always a chance. In the 3rd or 4th round, they go to the corner of Topuria, who is the champion, and he is having issues seeing out of his left eye. The doctors are checking him. They're trying to be able to see if he can follow his finger. And after the doctor checks him, he looks off and goes, no way, dude, this is off. Then the corner and other administrators get to talk to the doctor, and the referee comes in, and he goes to Ilia and says, do you want to continue? If you want to continue this fight, we will let you continue. I want this fight to continue. And obviously, he shakes his head and continues to get his brains beat in for another round before they officially call it. So now, what made me say, oh no, is the UFC disregarding doctor's orders. Blatantly. He was mic'd up. We could hear him. We could see him. He was pantomiming, no way. And UFC said, nah, we'll let him fight for another round. This is the main event of UFC Freedom. We're not calling it off, which they did 1 round later to give Justin Gaethje the win. But directly going in the opposite direction of doctor's orders is not a good look. I would imagine some fight trade associations are going to have something to say about this. It was a bad look. Great event, but not a great look in the main event.
As every other sport devotes more and more resources to preventing head injuries, to making sure head injuries are quickly cared for. Yeah, that is a pretty rough look by the UFC. 615-737-1045, the best submission for what made you say, oh no, in sports this week. Headed to see OAR at First Bank Amphitheater. Max is up first. Hey, Max.
Hey, I wanted to talk about the Spain game.
Go for it.
I think that Spain went into that game with the mindset that they would have they would have won against Cape Verde, and that they could have not started Lamine Yamal, and it wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Max. So he's going with the shocking result yesterday in Atlanta in group stage play of the World Cup. Cabo Verde, a nation of 10 islands clustered off the coast of West Africa that was a Portuguese colony as recently as 1970, held Spain, the defending European champions and World Cup favorites, to a scoreless draw yesterday. Insane result. Goalkeeper, 40 years old, plays for a second division team in Portugal. Incredible performance, stood on his head. And Spain, who very much would have liked to keep Lamine Yamal on the bench, their 18-year-old superstar, had to throw him out there in the 71st minute because they had to go find solutions as he comes off a hamstring injury. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't break the door down. And it is certainly the most shocking scoreless draw, I would say, in World Cup history. Absolutely insane. A masterclass of a defensive and goalkeeping performance by Cabo Verde yesterday in their debut at the World Cup. Incredible stuff. A nation of 500,000 people basically winning a scoreless draw against the tournament favorites. Good submission by Max. Dwayne is up next. Hey, Dwayne. All right, Dwayne, you got to turn down your radio. Eric is up next. Hey, Eric.
Hey, guys, first of all, I just want to say I'm not calling for the prize, and it's also not sports related, but what made me say, oh, no, was two young kids that got robbed of their lemonade stand money by two teenage punks, of $50 in a Boston neighborhood. The little boy was talking about, he said a guy walked up to him with a gun saying, give up your lemonade money. He was 10, and I think his sister was about 8 or 9 years old. Word got around the neighborhood, and the mayor of Boston showed up, police, whole bunch of people support them. They raised thousands of dollars, and they're going to give the money to charity. And by the way, the two punks got caught. One was a 16-year-old kid, the youngest. The other kid was 14, robbing two kids trying to sell lemonade in the neighborhood of money. That was my oh no. Guys, y'all take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Goodness. All right, Eric.
What we don't know is if those children that robbed the younger children also had a rival lemonade stand. They were just taking out the competition. Like, we can't have these kids stealing all our lemonade money. We got to shut this down.
Price of the bricks going up. What are the lemons going for these days? Well, I'm glad that story had a positive ending. Eric, thanks for the call. Benny in Clarksville is up next. By the way, remember to stay on hold for your opportunity to win the tickets. Hey, Benny.
Okay, yeah, my unknown moment was whenever at the UFC 250, Freedom 250, and it was everything about it was so good. The presentation was good right up to the moment where that knucklehead said Michelle Obama is a man.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the call. It's a good submission, Benny. What are we doing?
Yeah, Josh Hokett, he beat the hell out of Derek Lewis, and his whole thing is he acts like he's on the spectrum, or like every fight he has like a different bit. Mm-hmm. This time when he weighed in, he threw up all over himself. Like he kept stuff in his mouth, and then he was like, sorry, I've been up all night drinking. It's always a bit with him. So I really feel like it lessened how cool the event was by doing something stupid
just
like
dumb.
That. And he's undefeated. Like, he's a huge star in the making for the UFC. To do something like that, like, it doesn't bring any good eyes to you. It doesn't bring anyone wanting to watch your fights. Maybe it makes people want to watch you get knocked out, but
yeah.
like I think he hurt himself and the UFC's perception on an already polarizing event.
Not really helping the allegations of like just dumb meatheads bashing each other's brains in, right? Yeah, that's tough. All right, I think Benny should win the tickets.
Yep, Benny gets tickets.
Benny headed to OAR at First Bank Amphitheater. Appreciate everybody calling in. So we had one caller reference that result with Spain yesterday in Atlanta. You may just be parachuting into the World Cup after that U.S. men's national team performance on Friday. And if you are, then we'll get you set with everything you need to know for the next couple of weeks. Coming up next. It is a beautiful day in Music City to go grab some lunch at Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Whether it's the Melrose, Midtown, West Nashville, or Broadway locations across Middle Tennessee, maybe the factory at Franklin if you're in that neck of the woods, and coming very soon in a matter of days, in fact, to Gallatin Ave in East Nashville. Great setup out there, a little event space in the back with the string lights, a little bit of a beer garden vibe at the new Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Go and sit out on the patio at the West Nashville location. If you're taking a stroll on Broadway, you got people in town. What better way to enjoy a Nashville weekend with your friends and visitors than with the best hot chicken in the world? Juicy, crispy hot chicken with those scratch-made sides. Oh, I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. Download the Hattie B's app today. They're very generous with how they let you build up those rewards. You get a free dessert just for downloading the app, order for pickup or delivery, and go to Hattie B's Hot Chicken today. .11:03. Good morning from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Down studio. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Brendan Sorsby eligibility saga at Texas Tech appears to have come to an end as the quarterback announced Monday he will enter the NFL supplemental draft. Sorsby was granted an injunction against the NCAA that cleared a path for him to play this season despite an admitted past of gambling on college sports, including his own team during his time at Indiana. The NCAA and Big 12 were seeking avenues to reverse that ruling. Titans minicamp gets underway today. Head coach Robert Saleh met with the media earlier today, as did defensive coordinator Gus Bradley and offensive coordinator Brian Dable. You can hear Saleh's press conference coming up in the noon hour. In the World Cup, Cape Verde pulled a shocker on Monday, holding tournament favorite Spain to a scoreless draw in Atlanta. The action begins today at 2 p.m. with France taking on Senegal in New Jersey. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. So we talked about this in the lead up to the World Cup coming to North America. I think there's a lot of American fans that are not soccer fans that didn't have a level of hype for the World Cup or anticipation. And going in, I felt like there were a lot of people that were going to be in and along for the ride that didn't even know they were right up until the U.S. kicked off against Paraguay at SoFi Stadium on Friday. And then the U.S. men's national team on Friday did exactly what they needed to do, provide a launch point with an electric performance, a record 4-goal performance for the U.S. at the World Cup to get people in and hyped up about this team and the potential they have to make a deep run, hopefully the best run we've ever seen from a U.S. men's national team at a FIFA World Cup. And I feel like that has happened. It certainly happened with Robert. It's happened with a lot of people I know that watched that game on Friday or maybe at a watch party and got captured by the moment and are in for this ride over the course of the next few weeks. So to those of you that is the case for, I say welcome. Come on in. We're here for the next 5 weeks talking wall to wall, nothing but World Cup. I'm just kidding. We won't do that.
It's not 4 weeks now, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. It's about 4 weeks until the final is July 18th. So a month and 2 days. A month and 2 days until the final happens at MetLife Stadium, which for the World Cup's purposes is New York, New Jersey Stadium. So all of the stadiums, like Mercedes-Benz is not Mercedes-Benz, it's Atlanta Stadium. SoFi Stadium is Los Angeles Stadium. World Cup's like, we're not taking money from you guys. No, you are Dallas Stadium. Oh, I did love the other day watching Netherlands and Japan play at Jerry World, hearing, I can't remember which British announcer it was on the call it Jerryville.
Oh, Jerryville, that's awesome. Did you see my favorite thing? This should just be something we do every day. What's the favorite thing you've seen from the World Cup? Was it Mexico and Korea? Is that who it was in Mexico City?
Yeah, South Korea, yeah.
Did you see all of the Korean men that descended upon like downtown Mexico? And they were just like, everybody's in the streets getting drunk, and it's Korean men, Mexican women just making out with each other. They're just like matching it. Like they'll go in, kiss each other. It's like an elementary school dance. Like they'll do it and then they run back to their like respective group and like giggle like it was so fun, man.
So that's the favorite thing that you've seen so far?
No, just one of them. I mean, I feel like there was too much. I can imagine your favorite thing that you saw from me was texting you at 11:30 being like, who is this fast-ass dude on Australia?
You have no idea how happy it made me. My heart grew 100 sizes coming back to meet you after the USA game, and you're just peppering me with questions. Just all in. But my favorite thing that I think I've seen so far off the field, the police officers getting involved in the party. Like, that has just been incredible. You saw this video of this cop in Boston surrounded by a sea of humanity, of Scottish fans. And this cop is in the middle of this enormous crowd, and he's juggling a soccer ball. You know, he's bouncing it on his knees, the keepy-uppies with the foot. He's bouncing it, he's juggling it.
Is that what they call that? The keepy-uppies?
The keep-uppies, yeah. Different languages will call it different things. But he's juggling the ball. and fans are getting into it with every single time he keeps the ball off the ground. Fans are getting louder and louder, and then finally he kind of kicks the ball away, and he does this celebration where he puts like both hands behind his ears, like almost like the elephant ears celebration, and the people just go nuts, and they just mob this police officer, and they're all jumping up and down with him. Like, he's got a firearm on his hip, and he's just in there in a crowd going crazy. I saw one cop dancing with, I think it was Curacao fans, maybe Cape Verde fans just yesterday. So that stuff, man, just brings a smile to your face. And it's been cool to see all of these fans enjoying America and, like, coming here and being like, this place is awesome. Like usually it's American fans going to other places and enjoying the beauty of going to Italy or wherever. But it's been so fun to have people come over and say, you guys tried this Taco Bell? This is incredible.
The Japanese fan that had like a poetic response to, like, he wrote like a love letter to Mexican restaurants.
Oh, that was so good.
And I'm worried that is someone using AI to write in the style of that. But I don't know. I pray that it's real and that it's somebody. But the way he's cranking them out every single day, this dude is either like the written artist of a generation or he's AI. Because he tried biscuits and gravy. He tried all of these things. I judged biscuits and gravy off its appearance. I would like to apologize to the restaurant, the chef, the waitress, and most of all, biscuits and gravy. Everything he writes is so poetic. There's just no way that it's a real dude cranking these out every single day.
It's phenomenal. Okay, so Lonzo in the FNM Bank chat, where you can join us on 104.5 The Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. You can also jump in on the phone, 615-737-1045. Lonzo says, what is the World Cup and when did it start? So, the TLDR of the 2026 FIFA World Cup coming to the United States, Canada, and Mexico. For those of you that were not anticipating it and know nothing about it. This is a competition that started, its first edition was in 1930 in Uruguay with 4 teams. Since then, it has expanded to 48 teams. It happens every 4 years. This is the first edition of the World Cup with 48 teams. It was 32 teams for generations before that. We are up to 48. Nobody wanted that. Nobody asked for it. It is what it is. FIFA's got to make their money. So 48 nations divided up into groups of 4, 12 groups of 4. You play the other 3 teams in your group one time. A win is 3 points. A draw is 1 point. A loss is 0 points. Goal differential is the tiebreaker. So the top 2 teams in each group advance to the round of 32. And the new twist with this World Cup, the 8 best third-place teams of the group stage also advance to the round of 32. So 48 teams start the tournament, but only 16 teams actually get eliminated from the group stage. And then we get to the round of 32, and from there, it is bracket style, 1 game, win, or go home, all the way to the final. It is something that millions of people around the world live and die with every play. Nations going insane, partying in the streets, descending upon American cities, and here we are. The tournament favorite is Spain, who yesterday was held to a scoreless draw against Cape Verde in their first ever World Cup game. A shocking result in Atlanta for the Spanish national team that are the defending European champions and are, of course, one of the most talented teams in this tournament. Other favorites in this tournament, France, I think, is the most talented team. They start off coming up at 2 p.m. Central against Senegal in New Jersey. Germany, the 4-time World Cup champions. Argentina are the defending champions. Brazil are always considered a favorite, although they weren't necessarily inspiring over the weekend against Morocco. Portugal has been my pick to win, and I think they're the one nation that has never won a World Cup that has the ability to win it this year. The players to watch are many of the names that you already know, right? Lionel Messi starts his World Cup journey, his 6th World Cup this afternoon against Algeria with the Argentinian national team. He's 38 years old. What Argentina does still revolves around Lionel Messi. Cristiano Ronaldo, also in his 6th World Cup, is 41 years old. He very much is going to be part of the equation for Portugal, but in my opinion, he holds them back a little bit. He's not at the peak of his powers, and I don't know that he's going to provide as much as he has in the past, but he is their leader, their icon. And Lamine Yamal is the 18-year-old Spanish star that's arguably the best player in the world right now that made his World Cup debut off the bench yesterday as Spain was seeking answers against Cape Verde. They didn't want to play him. He's coming off a hamstring, but they were forced to play him. And then today we get to see Kylian Mbappe play against Senegal, the French forward, superstar for Real Madrid, lightning fast, incredible goal scorer, has starred on the World Cup stage before. He was the Golden Boot winner in 2022 in Qatar. He scored 8 goals in that tournament where France lost in the final to Argentina in penalty kicks.
Which of your team favorites that could have win the whole thing suffered the worst week 1 result? I know Brazil tied. Like, how does that impact people that were favorites not having the best draw or the best result come out of the first round?
So because Brazil tied 1-1 with Morocco, who was the other good team in their group, Morocco's probably the best team out of Africa in this tournament. So Brazil and Morocco tied 1-1. The other 2 teams in that group are Haiti and Scotland, who are just happy to be here. The Scottish fans were going nuts, by the way, with their win over Haiti. But now that Brazil and Morocco have tied, they each take a point. They will each play Haiti and Scotland. So it likely will come down to goal differential because Brazil and Morocco will both be expected to beat the snot out of Haiti and Scotland. So whoever can run up the score in those 2 games more is going to win that group. So you can be up 3-0, 4-0 in the second half. You do not pull back. You do not put the brakes. You run it up. You continue pushing and trying to add more goals to give yourself that goal differential advantage. Now, the United States is in a group with Turkey, Paraguay, and Australia. Pretty evenly balanced group. The U.S. is the most talented team in that group. Turkey also boasts some really, really high-quality young talent, some of the most exciting young players in the world. The U.S. started with the best World Cup performance I've ever seen by the U.S. men's national team. 4-1 against Paraguay. It captured the nation. They were fun to watch. They were trying things. They were dribbling. They had flair. They were organized. They were finishing. 4-1 over Paraguay. And then Turkey, in a shocking upset, lost 2-0 to Australia. So now the U.S. is in an advantageous position because we already have 3 points. We already have a +3 goal differential. We play Australia on Friday and Turkey the following Thursday. And any result against either of those 2 teams, whether a win or a draw, essentially guarantees the U.S. moving on to the knockout round.
As long as they don't lose.
Yes. But even if they lose both of those games, 3 points with a decent goal differential could be enough to make you one of the 8 best third-place teams, which I don't love. But for the U.S., it needs to be about winning the group. If the U.S. wins the group, they will be matched up with one of those 8 third-place teams. So you will get a more advantageous matchup if you can take care of business here the next 2 weeks.
Does it matter to you, or I guess from your outlook, does it matter who the USA beats? If they beat or tie with Australia or Turkey, is there a better team to get that result for?
The points will all count the same, but even though Turkey lost to Australia, they are the team that can threaten you more.
So you would like to beat them and kind of put them in the basement where they would have to fight out. Is there a way if Turkey loses to the U.S. in 2 weeks, there's a way that they don't make it out of this group?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we'll see what they do against Paraguay. Like, if Turkey has a disappointing performance against Paraguay and just picks up a draw, then suddenly Turkey is facing a do-or-die situation where they have to beat the United States to get out of the group. And it could very well be that Turkey is one of the more disappointing teams in this tournament. Because like I mentioned, they have a talented squad. But they faced an Australia team that was extremely good defensively, that has some high-level counter-attacking talent up top, that can shred you with the pace, with the dribbling ability in transition into those open spaces. So the U.S. will face probably just a better version of what they saw in Paraguay this week against Australia. They're going to have a similar game plan. They're going to sit back, they're going to invite the U.S. to have the possession, and they're going to try to hit you on the break. And they showed against Turkey that they are more well-equipped to do that and shock a team with that style of play than Paraguay looked against the U.S.
Heck yeah. I'm excited, dude. I can't wait for when are the first games that start this week? Do they all start again on Friday? They give them a little bit of break, or are they
for the United States?
For anybody, just any games.
Those games are happening every day. Every day. There are only 5 days over the course of these 5.5 weeks. There are only 5 days with 0 games.
Okay, so what games that are happening this week? I feel like we've gone too long, but I'm sorry. I'm just so enthralled. What are the games this week that I need to watch, aside from the U.S. on Friday?
I think it starts at 2 o'clock today, France and Senegal.
Okay.
What's been dubbed the group of death is Group I. So the best group, the heavyweight group, France, one of the favorites, the most talented team. France could field their B team and could go to the semifinal, I think. Senegal, who are one of the best teams in Africa, have a lot of attacking firepower. And Norway, who are kind of the hottest dark horse pick of this tournament. Your boy Erling Haaland, one of the best goal scorers on the planet, leading the line for Norway. And then Iraq is trying to do something insane and get out of that group. But France and Senegal go head-to-head coming up at 2 o'clock in a game that could have a lot of goals where we'll get to see the French talent on full display. They're both going to be going for the win, could be end-to-end. And it's also a rematch of one of the most shocking upsets in World Cup history back in 2002 when Senegal knocked off then defending champion France. And most of the players on that Senegalese team in 2002 were born and raised in France to Senegalese parents. A lot of geopolitical ties there. So there's a lot of ties between these two countries in a soccer sense.
Because it's the group of death, does that make it harder for the third-place team of that group to make it through to be one of the third-place teams that are faced because the competition is so big? Like, there's not really a gap for somebody to get one up if they all split?
Yeah, I mean, they could cannibalize each other and each get a win somewhere along the way and put themselves in good position. But sure, yeah, I mean, your competition the level is raised. I mean, Iraq, man, they're in their first World Cup since 1986. I mean, which that in and of itself is an incredible accomplishment for them. And they get rewarded by having to face, some of the best teams in this tournament. So I'm just happy people are along for the ride. I hope y'all will keep your mind open to it if you're not. And join us for the USA games. There will be more watch parties. Nashville SC is doing another one at Centennial Park this Friday. So can't wait. Can't wait to take it in with you guys. It starts today, France and Senegal at 2 o'clock. All right, coming up next, Brendan Sorsby. We know he's going to the supplemental draft. What NFL teams make sense for him? We'll talk about it on the other side. So Brendan Sorsby's off to the NFL, but there are so many questions that follow. Chief among them, what teams could have interest in a talented quarterback that theoretically could have been a first-rounder in this past NFL draft, but there are complications there. We'll get to that. We'll get to your phone call. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Matt in Spring Hill up next. Hey, Matt.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Good, man. What you got?
Good. First of all, side note, my son's in the back seat watching his Elmo videos, and the Elmo-Rocco feud is elite entertainment, by the way.
It wages on.
It's so good. Anyways, my question is, Hani Mukhtar.
I can hear Elmo.
On the World Cup?
I can hear
it's the world's biggest stage. It's MLS's, all-star, MVP. Why is he not in the World Cup? Hang up and listen.
Okay, thanks for the call, Matt. I heard the question, but I could not concentrate through it. I could just hear Elmo.
What do you mean, Zoe? Rocco is a rock.
He's losing his mind.
For the caller's question, why is Hani Mukhtar, Nashville SC's biggest star, not playing in the World Cup?
Oh, I feel like I have to compose myself. My goodness. So to answer your question, Hani is a high-level player in Major League Soccer. High-level player, obviously. He's an MVP a couple of years ago. I believe this is the 5th consecutive year that he's an MLS All-Star. He's one of the best players in the league. The problem is, for the German national team, you have to be in a certain percentage of talent globally that MLS players, though the league has improved, like the quality has improved dramatically, that largely MLS players do not make that cut. It just is what it is. There are about 130, 140, 150,000 professional male soccer players on the planet, I would say. So think about how small the percentage of that 140-ish thousand are in Major League Soccer. The truth of it is the European leagues and the majority of South American leagues are just at a higher level than Major League Soccer is. The league has made strides. It's made improvements. And look, if Hani was 6 or 7 years younger, there you go. If he was 24 or 25 years old, bursting onto the scene in Major League Soccer, doing what he's doing, he could probably get a move back to Europe. And then from there, who knows if his trajectory were to continue upward. And he was when he was a young player. He was on German youth national teams. For a while, he was considered an up-and-coming talent in Germany. And his career trailed a little bit in Europe. He got a fresh start in Nashville. And he has hit the prime of his career in Nashville. But it's just a different level, man. It's a different level for young players in Germany, for players in Europe in general, especially in those big 5 leagues in Europe, which are in England, Germany, France, Spain, and Italy.
Is there anyone from NSC who is in the World Cup currently?
Yeah, Ahmed Qasim, who is a winger for Nashville, who is a good player. He certainly isn't at the level of Hani or Sam Surridge, but he's a good player. He's contributed for Nashville. Born in Sweden, but his mother is from Iraq. So he switched his international allegiance to Iraq and got called up to the Iraqi national team. So there are MLS players like that got call-ups to nations that just don't have the depth of talent that a Germany does. The pipeline of young German talent trying to be funneled up to the national team into big German clubs and other clubs around the world is insane. And the same goes for England. The same goes for Italy. The same goes for, Norway, Denmark. Like, the level is extremely, extremely high. We're trying to get to that place in the United States from a player development standpoint, but it's hard when the U.S. and American sports, the feeder system, the primary feeder system is college sports, right? For basically every major sport. The best path to become an NFL player or an NBA player or a Major League Baseball player, maybe not always in the case of MLB players, is to go and star at the college level. It just doesn't work that way for soccer. The college sports system, the college soccer system, is not competitive enough for it to be a true feeder system to make players play at an elite level, to develop. They're not getting the development that they would get at an academy in Europe. There's a reason why Christian Pulisic, the best American player who's achieved heights no American player ever has at the club level, there's a reason why he is where he is. Because his family, when Pulisic was 16 years old, and a scout discovered him in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and Borussia Dortmund, one of the biggest clubs in Germany that have a renowned academy developing young players, offered his family an opportunity to move him to Germany when he was 16 years old, and they did that. They made the decision to uproot Christian from his high school in Pennsylvania and move him to Germany to become a full-time soccer player. And in these academies, you go to school and you take classes, but you are there to be developed as a soccer player and hope that you can rise above just the giant mixer of young talent and crack the first team and go from there.
This is an offshoot conversation, but like the draw for the World Cup, is it simply for national pride, or can other countries pay more than other countries can? So, like, if you had the opportunity to go be on the French team or the Iraqi team, would you pick the French because they can pay more? Is there a salary cap? Is there a limit to how much? Do they not get paid much money at all? Like, what's the pay?
The financial incentives in international soccer are based on what you can win. I think the pot for the winner of the World Cup is $50 million from FIFA. And then it's a notch below that if you're the runner-up and third place and fourth place and so on. But no, you don't get offered a salary. And that's kind of the beauty of it. It's the purity of it. You make your money as a soccer player in endorsements, yes, and your salary with the club that you pay for. That is who you can negotiate with. But that's the beauty of it, is you are beholden to the nation that you are from. And you can, if you are a dual citizen, if you have a mother or a father that is a citizen of another country, there are pathways to represent other countries. And for somebody like Ahmed Qasim, the Nashville player that we referenced, the truth of it is Qasim is not at a place right now in his career where he is a high-level enough player to be called up by Sweden. That's just the fact of the matter. But he has a better opportunity to play for Iraq. So he switched to Iraq, and he got the call-up to go to the World Cup with Iraq.
Okay, Christian Pulisic, as I understand from you, is one of, if not the best player on the U.S. Could he say...
He's our best player.
So if they did win, say the U.S. won the whole thing, they won $50 million, can he go to the people before the tournament starts and say, hey, I don't want an even slice of this pie. I'm obviously the best player on this team. I want 1/5 of the total winnings. Is there ever an argument like that?
Truly, I don't know how those things get divvied up. I have no earthly idea. But it's not even really a part of the discussion. It's not something you ever hear about.
So it's just pride. It's simply pride.
Yeah. For every single professional soccer player in the world, for millions and millions of people in the world, myself included, everything about their love of sports, soccer, but sports in general, comes out of the World Cup because there's nothing like it. You don't get to pick and choose unless you have nationalities that, that's out of your control. If you have a mother or father from a nation or you're a dual citizen, otherwise, you're stuck with what you're stuck with. Everybody's dream is to represent their country at the highest level at the World Cup with literally billions of people watching. So it's, in a way, it's the purest form of professional sports on the planet, right? Because there are financial incentives if you win or if you go deep in a tournament, but that's not why you're there. You're there to represent your country and to reach levels that players, most of the time, only dream of reaching.
I need a World Cup for, like, every sport. Like,
I know, right?
Can we get a World Cup for, like, NASCAR racing?
Yeah. It's like, think about the Olympics with basketball. Like, these guys, yes, there are financial incentives to go win a gold medal. There's endorsements that come with that. But for the most part, these NBA players, they're not holding out, right? And telling the United States, like, Kevin Durant at no point is saying, no, I need a certain percentage of this if I'm going to play on the Olympic team. It's a dream to represent your country and win a freaking gold medal for something that happens once every 4 years. So the closest thing we have to it is in basketball and hockey in terms of major team sports in the United States. And you saw how much it meant to the United States beating Canada in the gold medal match in the Winter Olympics. Those guys were not there for the financial incentives. They were there to make history, to literally write their names into the history books of Olympic hockey. And that's what happens here at the World Cup. And for players that are Spanish or German or Argentinian or Brazilian, it's about winning the World Cup and having your face plastered on murals all over your home country and literally being an idol, a god when you step foot in your home country if you're a Messi or a Maradona.
Like, what was the goalie you were telling me on the balcony about?
Right. Or you're a player for a nation like Cape Verde that's never been to a World Cup, that can barely even fathom of going to a World Cup, letting alone getting a result against one of the tournament favorites, which is what Cape Verde did yesterday, a scoreless draw against Spain. And the goalkeeper for Cape Verde, who is a 40-year-old by the name of Vozinha, he plays in the second division in Portugal, went from 48,000 Instagram followers to 5 million Instagram followers.
It's insane.
Literally overnight because of his performance standing on his head in that game. And I get it. People hate draws. People can't even fathom. American fans can't fathom the idea of a whole game being played, 0 goals being scored, and it being this momentous, shocking, insane result that everybody's freaking out over. But just think about that. This is a little island nation off the coast of West Africa playing against some of the best players in the world. I don't even know what the comparison would be, Bert. I think maybe if you took the Olympic-winning U.S. men's hockey team and you put them up against an AHL team or something, and they shut them out. And they're just defending with their lives, and they've got the puck in their defensive zone for all 20 minutes of each period, just defending with life and death. And coming out, not allowing a single goal, that is just a momentous achievement for a tiny little nation like Cape Verde. And they're partying in the streets. I mean, they're going crazy. I don't know if there's footage from literally the streets of Cape Verde where they're partying in the streets and like holding up goats, I guess signifying that the keeper is the goat. They're literally like holding up goats and giant, massive humanity in the streets going nuts, standing on cars for a scoreless draw. So things like that you don't get in any other sport. That it comes around every 4 years. You miss it, you count down to it, and then when it's here, you just try to soak it in. Kevin is up next. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, guys. Loved the goats yesterday. I thought that I've been really enjoying the World Cup, but I got to give y'all a yellow card on your coverage that you were just talking about with the matches today.
What you got?
It's Turkey A. It's Turkey A.
I know.
It's no longer Turkey.
Hey, that's cool. We get another one.
Guys are so.
We get another yellow card before anything happens, right? Lucas was explaining me the severity of yellow versus red. So we can get another yellow card before we're suspended for a game, right?
This is true. So you're still fine. You just gotta tread carefully.
Thanks for the call, Kevin. But if Kevin calls back in and gives one of us a yellow card, then if he calls back in and gives me a yellow, I have to leave. You have to do the rest of the show by yourself.
Yeah, I'll take this yellow. I feel like you are more important to the success of this team. I will take the yellow, and we can put another goalkeeper in opposite me.
Okay. All right. But if you get another yellow in this show, then you have to leave and nobody's back there, and I just have to finish this out by myself. And you can't come in tomorrow.
How do I get a yellow card? How do we both get red cards so Buck has to do the show by himself?
I mean, I'm loving this. I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys indulging me in this. So keep them coming. 615-737-1045. But we will actually talk about where Brendan Sorsby fits in the NFL as he heads to the supplemental draft coming up next. All right, there are so many questions from here. Brendan Sorsby's off to the supplemental draft. That does answer the question of, is Brendan Sorsby actually going to play college football after admitting to gambling on college football games? That question's answered. The answer is no. But now new questions sprout off of that, right? He's off to the supplemental draft. Is the NFL going to step in and do something here? What will the interest look like for Brendan Sorsby? What will the demand look like? In what range of the NFL supplemental draft will Brendan Sorsby go? Will teams bid second-round picks, third-round picks? Will teams wait and not bid anything but a 6th or a 7th-round pick? I'm truly fascinated by how this plays out because this is a good prospect that we're talking about. We mentioned most NFL draft experts are of the mind that Sorsby would have been a first-round pick in the most recent NFL draft, a weak QB class. But still, had none of this happened and he had a good season with Texas Tech, I think even in a deep QB class in 27, Sorsby would have been in the discussion to be a potential first-round draft pick. Let's hear from Field Yates on this. ESPN NFL draft expert reacting to the news that Brendan Sorsby is off to the supplemental draft and what that could mean for him as a prospect and teams that may have interest.
Wow. Huge news involving Brendan Sorsby, who now it looks like will be in the 2026 supplemental NFL draft. Make no mistake about it. Each NFL team's going to have a different evaluation of how much this gambling scandal that has led to all of this impacts the outlook for Brendan Sorsby. It's a part of his football character. From a talent standpoint, make no mistake about it. If Brendan Sorsby played well in 2026, he was going to go in the first round of 2027. This guy's legit. He had a chance to go maybe in the top 10 picks if things broke really right during his time at Texas Tech. This guy's got good size. Very good athlete, a sick runner, 18 rushing touchdowns over the past 2 seasons. He is a gamer. He's got serious moxie. His second reaction skills are all legit. This guy's got the goods to play in the NFL. I thought last year the accuracy waxed and waned too much, but he's got starting quarterback upside in the NFL. Which teams might be interested? Hard not to think about a team like the New York Jets. Still looking for a long-term answer. Plenty of draft capital right now. Geno Smith going to be the starter with Kate Klubnik behind him. Beyond that, could a team like the Cleveland Browns also still looking for a long-term answer? They have additional draft capital to work with as well after the Myles Garrett trade. And then, of course, finally, the Arizona Cardinals, a team that kind of on the periphery here. Not sure they would make a ton of sense because of the Carson Beck selection, but Beck drafted at the top of the 3rd round, not enough to fully stamp him as the guy that they are going to build around going forward. I think Sorsby is going to end up being taken in the 2nd round of the supplemental draft. Of course, teams are making these picks without knowing exactly where they are going to fall in the order the following year. And worth noting, you can only use your own picks in the supplemental draft. So a team like the New York Jets that's got multiple picks, for example, in the 1st round, could only use their own 1st round pick in the supplemental NFL draft. I think Sorsby ends up in the 2nd round, but a fascinating next few weeks is on tap for a player with tons of talent.
All right, there's Field Yates of ESPN, 2nd round of the supplemental draft. And that is just sight unseen with us not knowing if the NFL is going to hand anything down and suspend him for a number of games, maybe even suspend him for the entirety of his rookie season. I don't know. Again, this is pretty unprecedented. So that's what Field Yates thinks. He mentions the Jets. He mentions the Browns, 2 teams that probably come up pretty naturally in these discussions. To the question of if the NFL will punish him, Pro Football Talk wrote this article earlier today that Brendan Sorsby's attorney is already working to try and mitigate or ensure that the NFL does not punish Sorsby. So Jeffrey Kessler is the name of the attorney. He has gone up against both the NCAA and NFL in court multiple times, according to this article. The article says that Kessler has already begun to attempt to ensure that the league will not impose roadblocks on Sorsby's effort to join the NFL. He writes, Mike Florio writes, the league could try to reject his application for the supplemental draft 1. The league could try to suspend Sorsby, concocting an outcome rooted in the integrity of the NFL's gambling policies. When Commissioner Roger Goodell duplicated the 5-game suspension that the NCAA had imposed on Ohio State quarterback Terrell Pryor, a third-round pick of the Raiders in the 2011 supplemental draft, Goodell cited the integrity of and public confidence in the league's eligibility rules. So that's the closest thing we have, Bert. Terrell Pryor was given a 5-game suspension by the NCAA, but he chose to step away, and Ohio State cut ties with him, which made him ineligible, and then he entered the supplemental draft, and the NFL said, we'll give you what the NCAA said they were going to give you for the tattoos and money for memorabilia and all those things. So to follow that precedent, the NCAA didn't hand Brendan Sorsby a suspension. They said, you're done. You're not playing here. How does the NFL handle this? How does the NFL go about handling this with no precedent to back it up?
I think you would look at how they thought of other people gambling inside the NFL. I mean, the Calvin Ridley precedent of a year suspension is probably what I would think this would start out at. Like maybe they can negotiate to get him back in the last 4 weeks of the season so he can get in the building. But it would be tough for me to imagine anything less than a commissioner exempt list suspended for one season, like the full calendar year. Anything less than that, I feel like, would be a slap on the wrist. If they say 10 games, anything less than a whole year that he's able to go in and practice and meet with coaches and learn the playbook feels like they're going light.
Florio, the last line in the article says, for now we're told that multiple teams are concerned that Goodell will impose a significant suspension on Sorsby. Kessler's job now pivots to trying to keep that from happening. Again, Kessler, Brendan Sorsby's attorney.
Which, with that news, it kind of takes away the impact of a quarterback-needy team needing him because you would be expecting him to contribute in 2027 when he had been on your roster, but not necessarily in the building where he can learn or practice or meet the coaches, get FaceTime value with receivers, what have you. So, I mean, I think you could take the Jets, Browns, not like they wouldn't put a lower pick in, but if the starting price is a second-round pick, which, by the way, every NFL team owns their original second-round pick. So if it is a second-round buy, then every team would be eligible to use that pick. I think it would be tough for a team like that to invest that kind of cap or that kind of investment from a draft pick standpoint and then still expect for him to be their starter or compete to be their starter in 2027. I think you would need to look at teams that are not necessarily quarterback needy now, but could use a quarterback down the line in 2028, 2029. And I think you look at teams like the Dallas Cowboys with Dak Prescott, who is firmly entrenched as their starter, but is not getting any younger. They could look to add someone in the wings to wait for their opportunity. They have Joe Milton there, but how much do they believe in a Joe Milton? Teams of that ilk. I think we sat out today and made a list of the teams that it would make sense that are not necessarily quarterback needy, but could make a swing at Sorsby to have a quarterback down the line. I believe we came up with the Atlanta Falcons, where Penix is in a tumultuous injury, polarizing situation. Tua, they've been I think the comments were there will be a quarterback race when Penix is healthy. Okay, so Tua is the starting quarterback currently. I think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where Baker is in a contract dispute right now, where he says, once we get a training camp, if you don't give me a contract, I'm not negotiating. I'm going to hit the free agent portal, and you guys are going to have to either pay me or watch me walk. The Lions.
What about the Colts?
Ooh. Daniel Jones getting a 2-year deal.
2-year deal.
Expected to play this year. I mean, from all of accounts, they say that he should be good for week 1. I think that's being a little hasty, but.
You talk about. I'm thinking about franchises that have been in this quarterback purgatory without any real avenue to address it. Now, the Colts are in it because they spent a top 5 pick on Anthony Richardson. It has not panned out. And the Daniel Jones thing did not work from an injury standpoint last year. It was working until the Achilles and the tibia and all these things. But there are so many questions about Daniel Jones, and the Colts find themselves right back into quarterback purgatory. And the Steelers, who have at no point had any real avenue to address the quarterback position in a high upside way. They're not getting those top 5, top 10 draft picks because they just refuse to bottom out. You talk about a loophole potentially for Pittsburgh to fix their quarterback situation with a guy that could be considered a first-round caliber prospect without having to lose a bunch of games. Just be the team that's willing to bid a third-round pick for Brendan Sorsby and not even need to use him until Aaron Rodgers is retired in 2027 and beyond. Man, the Steelers are intriguing when it comes to that. Roger Goodell also had some very interesting things to say during that Terrell Pryor situation. There's a quote that Florio references on Pro Football Talk that I think will be very interesting to read and put up next to the Brendan Sorsby situation. And we'll do that for you coming up next. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. We will continue to talk about Brendan Sorsby and ask the question, does this nix the future of any college athlete trying to find this same loophole that Brendan Sorsby found? Do it next.
Ramon Foster, and I'm with Aaron from United Structure Systems. Man, they came by today to check out my house. If there's anything, any issues, small or big, you're gonna fill us in there.
We can take care of it no matter what kind of problems. So first off, we'll just kind of take a look through your house and see what kind of issues you got going. You know, cracks in the brick, cracks in the drywall, weird spots in the floor, doors sticking, windows not opening properly. Once we identify those areas, we're going to do a thorough inspection around the outside, make sure there's no issues going on with that. And then once we look over it, we'll talk about what's going on, and hopefully we ain't got no issues, and then we'll go from there.
Let's go. Let's go.
Mr. Foster, so we have looked at the issues that you brought up. We had the drywall in the attic up here above your bonus or your garage. You had some doors sticking.
I did.
Going in your bathroom. So we've inspected all that. We don't see any major structural concerns. So you're going to be one of our lucky good news customers today. There is some minor deflection there. That's not an uncommon thing. As any house is built, it's its biggest and its strongest the day that it's born. Gotcha. Right? And from that point, it just gets older, just like us. We ain't hopping up out of bed, taking off down the hallway, running down the stairs anymore.
Not protecting quarterbacks anymore.
No.
Opening up late. We're done.
Your guard ain't there no more.
Okay, so, I got you.
So it just happens. It gets a little older and it starts to deflect. Now, there are some things we can do to kind of help adjust those doors, mainly adjusting in the door, which we don't necessarily do, and maybe doing some light shimming in the crawl space down there to address those sticking doors. But for now, no major issues there. We did talk about the grading in the back and some issues that we can take care of back there for you. But that's pretty much up in a nutshell. No big issues and you're good to go. So.
Awesome. So again, what you deal with United Structural Systems is it's upfront, it's honest, and now I can sleep peacefully at night, okay?
The guaranteed offer is the simplest, least stressful way to sell your home. You go to our website, you fill out a quick form, we set an appointment, we bring you an all-cash offer. Literally, there's no lockbox on the front of your house. There's no showings. We pay all cash. We close in as little as 21 days, stress-free. We've helped thousands of homeowners just like you sell your home the hassle-free way with a guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate.
This is a different court, Blair.
Same result, Slay.
Oh, okay, Blair. See, that's Tyler Tanner. See, Tyler Tanner's in the house now.
Let's see what you got. Jerry's out, Blair.
Blair, come on. Okay, Blair, just come sit down. Come on, Blair, stop. You're going to get hurt. Blair, get off the court. That's enough.
What's the verdict, Blair? The courtroom is where I play ball.
Boy, Durham, man. injury law, and that ain't got no roof.
We've got some Titans news. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, here with you for another hour before Blaine and Zach step in from 1 to 3, 3HL after that. Stay locked into 104.5 The Zone all day long as Titans minicamp gets underway today. Robert Saleh met with the media earlier, as did offensive coordinator Brian Daboll and defensive coordinator Gus Bradley. We will play the Robert Saleh press conference for you. Coming up in the next segment, you'll hear from Daboll and Bradley tomorrow. Position coaches will also speak tomorrow. But we've got Titans transactions. It's been a while since we've had any transactions of note. We will get back to the Brendan Sorsby discussion here in a second with teams that should be considered contenders to put in a bid for the Texas Tech quarterback. That's off to the supplemental draft. But first, some housekeeping here. The Titans have put out these transactions officially. The team has signed former Raiders starting center Andre James, 6'4", 300-pound, 29-year-old free agent out of UCLA, went undrafted to the Raiders. A cup of coffee in L.A. with the Chargers last year before he became a free agent, and now he is signed with the Titans. Also, defensive lineman Jalen Holmes, the 30-year-old, signed as a free agent. The teams in corresponding moves released center Trey Hill and waived an injured player in C.J. Ravenel, the edge rusher. So, former Raven, right? Ravenel.
That is correct. So they released him.
Yeah, he waived injured.
Yep, gotcha. Okay.
So, but Andre James, the more notable of the two there, this is a guy that signed a 3-year, $12.5 million extension through the 2023 season, was their starting center for pretty much 3 straight seasons and then signed a 3-year, $24 million extension in 2024, and he was released after the 2024 season.
If you remember Rodney Hudson, who was the center for the Raiders, when he left and went to, I believe they released him outright, but when he ended up going to the Arizona Cardinals, he was the center that stepped up and took his spot. He started 61 games in his career. Gives them another potential starting option with a lot of experience. Somebody behind Austin Schlottmann who, if things don't go well, they could end up penciling him in there. And a lot of Titans fans were saying, hey, we've still got all this money. Why have we not signed anybody? Why are we not bringing anybody in? The popular answer was probably, hey, they wanted to see how the mesh looked and if they really needed to add anybody. Now they've added something. I wonder what this says about Austin Schlottmann going forward.
Yeah, is that something to read into? That the Titans bring in an experienced starter at center. I don't know much about the Andre James experience in L.A. last year. I just know that the Chargers' offensive line had its struggles throughout the course of the year. A lot of that was due to the tackle spot and the injuries that piled up there.
Yeah, he was backing up Bradley Bozeman, who was not missing a lot of games due to injury. But Bradley Bozeman was pretty poor. You'd have to think that if they thought there would be an improvement to be made with Andre moving to center, they would have done that. Only played 84 snaps of offensive football last year. And allowed 2 pressures in those 84 snaps. But we haven't really seen him have consistent starting experience since the 2024 season where he started 11 games for the Raiders.
Okay. And then Jalen Holmes, 30 years old, 4th-round draft pick out of Ohio State back in 2018 to Minnesota. Since then, he's bounced around New Orleans, New York, Chicago. Did play for the Jets in 2023 and 24. So there's a Robert Saleh connection. And was in Washington. From 24 to 25. Jalen Holmes, who has played in 65 games in his career, has started 15 and has 4 career sacks. So some defensive line depth and some experienced center depth added today by the Titans.
And Jalen Holmes, he's kind of in that Solomon Thomas build, like a rocked-up dude, really strong, could fight the edge, hold the edge for you. Doesn't really provide a ton of pass rush options because he's played in the NFL for 8 years, started 15 games, played in 65, only 4 total sacks. So more of a run stopper, someone who's going to provide a strong presence on the outside. But not really give you as many pass rush chops. I think the Titans are still banking on Jacob Martin and Jermaine Johnson to provide the help in the pass rushing front.
The Andre James move should not come as a shock. I think it would have been pretty surprising if the Titans went into training camp with the plan at center being Austin Schlottmann or rookie 7th rounder out of Indiana, Pat Coogan. Right? As much as people like Pat Coogan, and people do speak glowingly about Pat Coogan from a personality standpoint, a leadership standpoint. Like, dude is the offensive MVP of the Rose Bowl as an offensive lineman. That's insane. But there are athletic and physical limitations there. Titans needed some insurance at the center spot. And Andre James, I don't have Schlottmann's career starts in front of me, but Robert, I would go ahead and guess Andre James has started probably significantly more games at center than Schlottmann has in his career.
You would be correct. Schlottmann has started 18 games and played in a possible 85. So not the length. But what he does have that Andre James doesn't is the knowledge of what Brian Daboll is expecting from his offensive line. So even if he doesn't end up being the starter, he can be like the torchbearer for the offensive line, the coach on the field to go, hey, when he calls this, he wants it this way, or he wants you to be looking here to move to the second level. He can still be a coach in the room without being the starter. But right now, I wouldn't say sight unseen that Andre James was brought in here to unseat him, but potentially just provide sharpening iron situation.
615-737-1045 is how you jump in. And we had not gotten to this yet, but Mike Garafolo reported this morning that the Titans hosted, let me pull up the report, make sure I have it right. The Titans hosted free agent safety, I genuinely hope I'm getting this right, Ifeatu Melifonwu for a workout. What do we think?
I have always
How close do you think I was there?
I have always said Melifonwu because his brother was a workout warrior at the Combine one year and ended up getting picked pretty high and didn't do diddly squat in the league. Here is the phonetics for the player you just submitted. Ifeatu Melifonwu.
Okay, 27 years old, a third-round pick out of Syracuse back in 21 to the Lions, spent last season with the Minnesota Vikings. He was on a one-year, $4 million contract in Minnesota. In Miami, excuse me. I don't know why I saw Miami and said Minnesota. 1 year, $4 million deal with Miami. Last year, he started in 8 games, played in 16. He did have a 3-sack season from his safety spot in Detroit in 2023. Injuries held him back in 2024, but another player that started 20-plus games in the NFL, and the Titans do need safety help. Right now, the safety spot is dependent on Amani Hooker, another year into his Titans career, and Kevin Winston Jr., a high-upside player that showed some flashes last year, but largely was unavailable. So we haven't seen a signing from Melifonwu, but the Titans did host him for a workout.
Usually when you see a player like this, a safety being signed late in the season, you're instantly going to say, oh, that guy's, they're working him out for special teams. Like, he's just got to be a special teams player. But through his career, he has almost always played more snaps on defense than he has on special teams. Not to say that he's not a good special teams player, but you noted the year he had 3 sacks. He also had 2 interceptions that year for Detroit. He played 37% of the defensive snaps and 40% of the special team snaps, but he played almost 400 snaps on defense, only 180 on special teams. So a player that could help you on defense as well as on special teams.
So his best career season so far, that magical 2023 NFC North title-winning season, that's not the run to the divisional round, right? No, that was in 2024.
Yeah, I think
they lost to the Commanders.
It's 24, that's correct.
Okay. He was held back by injuries, only played in 3 games in that 2024 season. Okay. So Titans making some moves. We will hear Robert Saleh speak about those tomorrow. I'm sure he'll get some questions. He stepped up to the podium certainly before these signings became official earlier today.
Something I saw while I was just perusing the stats, and I should have done more legwork on this initially. I need to see Sloatman's alignment from when he was with the Jets when he played, because Pro Football Reference is saying that he was a guard and an offensive lineman. It doesn't really say his starts came at center. So potentially they would keep him as a swing guy on the inside where he can start at either guard position, he can start at center, and they want a more traditional center prospect in Andre James. But I'll do some legwork and find, I'm sure Zach Lyons has it available, the alignment of where Sloatman got his starts at on that Giants offensive line.
I'll be curious to hear Zach and Blaine's thoughts on the Andre James signing coming up next.
Because you could see a potential situation where they don't like what Volson's doing, and they do trust Sloatman, and they want to move him to right guard and then have Andre James play center. I think there's a number of ways that this could play out, where even if Austin isn't the starting center, he still could find a way to contribute to the starting unit.
Okay. So we'll see what Robert Saleh has to say about that tomorrow. In the meantime, we tease this. Roger Goodell had this quote as we come back to the Brendan Sorsby story. It's the story of the day. It's the story of the week. The Texas Tech quarterback that was granted an injunction to play for the Red Raiders this season despite admission of gambling on college sports, including his own team when he was a QB at Indiana. He has declared for the supplemental draft. Ensuing legal battles, the Big 12 putting pressure on Texas Tech, the Big 12 seeking legislation in a federal court that will allow the conference to enforce its bylaws and not allow Brendan Sorsby to play. So things have gotten messy. Things have gotten heated. Texas Tech have come out with some incredibly cringy statements. Texas Tech has lost some respect, I would say, among the college football community. I don't think that's an insane thing to say at this point. So Sorsby is going to the supplemental draft, where we still don't know what kind of sanctions the NFL will hand down for a player that not only admitted to gambling on his own team, but checked himself into a residential rehab facility for a gambling addiction. There is no precedent like this for a player the caliber of Sorsby, the type of player that is considered. Is it fair to call, let's say you erased all of this, Robert, would we call Brendan Sorsby a fringe first-round prospect going into the season? If none of the gambling stuff happened and he was just going to play for Texas Tech as Big 12 favorites.
Fringe would be tough for me. I think he would be
bona fide.
I think he would be firmly entrenched. I mean, depending on play.
Like, he would have to play himself out of being a first-round prospect to you. He wouldn't have to play himself in.
Correct.
If that makes sense.
That's how I would look at it. Like, especially given how strong this quarterback class is, I think they're going to lean into most of those guys being first-round talents until they prove you otherwise on the field. Especially how starved they've been for, like, a superstar quarterback draft. Yeah. Every year, I mean, the last couple of years since the big one, and it felt like, well, so-and-so's going back to school. It'll be next year. Oh, well, so-and-so's going back to school. Now you got Dante Moore coming out, you got Arch Manning coming out, you got all these other guys. I still think that Sorsby would be thought of as a first-round player.
So the long and short of how the supplemental draft works in the NFL, for those of you that have never had to pay attention to it, I am one of those people. There are 3 pots of teams, essentially, based on what they did this past season. They don't just go off of the NFL draft order from a few months ago. They put all 32 teams in 3 different pots, and they have lotteries in each of those 3 pots to determine the order. And if a team has interest in Brendan Sorsby, you don't go on the clock. You simply bid a pick. So in that first pot of teams, that would include the teams that had the least success on the field last year. If, let's say, trying to think of a good example here of a team that, the Jets. If the Jets wanted to submit a pick for Brendan Sorsby, they obviously would be in that first pot of teams that had bad seasons in 2025, the Jets theoretically could submit a 3rd-round pick for Sorsby. And if the Steelers also wanted Brendan Sorsby, they would have to do better than a 3rd-round pick because the Jets would have the advantage there in the order. The key here is if you submit a bid for a 3rd-round pick for Brendan Sorsby and you are awarded Sorsby for that pick in the supplemental draft, you lose that pick in the upcoming NFL draft. It will be the highest profile supplemental draft since 2011, when Terrell Pryor was coming out from that scandal at Ohio State. This is not precedent by any stretch, because this was not a gambling scandal for Pryor. It was about making money on memorabilia, the free tattoos. We all remember it in that Jim Tressel era of Ohio State football. Terrell Pryor was given a 5-game suspension by the NCAA for that 2011 season. He chose not to come back to play for Ohio State in 2011. Ohio State, in turn, banned Terrell Pryor and disconnected him from the program, which made him ineligible to play for Ohio State and play college football in 2011, which then made him eligible to enter the supplemental draft. And the NFL simply copy-pasted the NCAA ban and said, we'll suspend you for 5 games too. You can enter the supplemental draft. A team can submit bids to draft you, but you will serve a 5-game suspension in the NFL, just like you would have if you had continued to stay in college. But this quote from Roger Goodell regarding Terrell Pryor from back in 2011, I think is interesting as we bring it back around to the Brendan Sorsby discussion on what kind of punishment the NFL will levy against a player that admitted to betting on his own team. This is courtesy of Pro Football Talk from Roger Goodell in 2011 regarding Terrell Pryor. Quote, in my judgment, allowing players to secure their own ineligibility for college play in order to avoid previously determined disciplinary consequences for admitted conduct reflects poorly not on college football, which acted to discipline the transgressor, but on the NFL by making it into a sanctuary where a player can not only avoid the consequences of his conduct, but be paid for doing so. So Roger Goodell saying he doesn't want to set this precedent. Again, this is back in 2011. Where players can be handed down penalties, suspensions, ineligibility from the NCAA and say, oh, well, it's fine. I'll just go to the supplemental draft. The NFL will reward me for it, and I'll just go play in the NFL. You don't want to let me play in college football? I'll just go play in the NFL, and I can make more money doing it, which I don't know if that's necessarily the case now in this NIL era, but you get the point. So I read that quote, Robert, and even though it was 15 years ago, I read that quote, and I think there is no way there's not something heavy coming down from the NFL here. Because there's another dangerous precedent, right? The NFL doesn't want to set. Now, to be clear, Brendan Sorsby would have been eligible to play this year through a court loophole, but the NCAA did rule him ineligible. So Roger Goodell does not want to set that precedent of a player running out of options and it being too much of a bleep storm for him to continue playing in college football and say, well, that's fine. The NFL's there.
I really think the thing that's the most fascinating to me about this and the whole supplemental draft thing is it's going to be the next canary in the coal mine for how teams feel about 2027. Because you could look at it through 2 glasses. You could look at it through the jaundiced eye, which is, well, we're getting a high-level quarterback who would be a first-round pick for a discounted price. Or you could look at it and say, I really don't feel comfortable giving a premium pick away in the 2nd or 3rd round of what is expected to be an elite-level draft. You'll remember in the 2026 draft, only 4 trades featured 2027 drafts. The highest profile pick of that trade was the Eagles trading for Jonathan Grenard to bring him in, and they gave a 2026 and a 2027 third. It is going to be really tough for me to see a team, I guess, besides the teams that we laid out, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who may not have the potential to draft a player like that and would be willing to get rid of a high-end pick. It would be tough for me to see another team just banking on it, thinking a Jets, a Browns, a Cardinals, a team that knows they probably will have a high pick in the 2027 draft. It would be tough for me to see them give up a second-round pick, knowing they would be one of the first few picks of that round.
I think I would be surprised, too, if Sorsby gets anything less than a full season. How does that look for the NFL if the NCAA is saying, no, this guy not only can't play this season, he can never play another snap of college football under our watch? Besides the point that he found a loophole through an injunction in a local court. That's besides the point. The fact that the NCAA ruled him permanently ineligible, the NFL then cannot turn around and say, well, you're good here, bud. You just can't. You just can't do that. At minimum, I think Sorsby suspended for a year, which the point you made about non-QB needy teams in the short term probably being among the teams that are going to be in this discussion. Field Yates threw a second-round pick out there. I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if you see that kind of capital bidded for Brendan Sorsby, for a guy that may not play for you at all in his rookie year. But it's tough. He's a high upside player. And for a team like the Colts or like the Steelers that isn't going to be giving up a top 10 pick and bidding for Sorsby, likely, you would think, there are worse ways to try and address your quarterback situation. Like in the weirdest of ways, Robert, this feels like a potential loophole for the Steelers to address the quarterback situation without their fan base screaming for them to go 3-14 one time so we can get a number one pick.
Yeah, it is. I'm excited to see when they decide the date on this, to see how much runtime teams have to do their. I'm sure teams are already doing their own evaluations about talking to college teams and whatnot. But again, that second round pick seems pretty high. I would, if I had to place it right now, I would say a third round pick gets it done because of the factors that we talked about previously, where it's like you're getting how many players quarterbacks drafted in the third round end up being high end starters, like Russ.
Man,
there's not many of them.
Fourth round pick, Dak Prescott.
Right.
Russell Wilson, you mentioned.
Drew Brees was a second round pick.
Yep.
But second round hits are far and few between when it comes to quarterbacks.
Brady is the example, right, as a sixth rounder. But they are far and few between. So there is the potential there to hop onto a train that nobody else really wants to hop on and get yourself a potential starting quarterback for a lot less value than what you would have to give up in normal circumstances. I have a question for Titans fans, because the Titans are not a part of this discussion. They are not one of these teams that will bid a pick for Brendan Sorsby. I think we can say that with near certainty. If you're a Titans fan and you were in a QB needy situation, would you want the Titans to submit a bid for Brendan Sorsby? Or if you're in a situation with an aging quarterback on an expiring deal, like the Steelers are right now with Aaron Rodgers, would you support the Titans submitting a bid for Brendan Sorsby? 615-737-1045. We'll take your phone calls, and we'll hear from Titans head coach Robert Saleh to kick off minicamp next. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Be sure to download the Hattie B's app today. That East Nashville location, I'm telling y'all, that place looks like a vibe. Can't wait to go check it out. Grand opening coming up.
I believe we're going to be there Thursday.
Is that official? Next Thursday?
I think it's this Thursday.
This Thursday, we're at Circus Sportsbook, right?
Oh, you're correct.
This Thursday,
I have my dates mixed up.
We are at the Mint Gaming Hall Circus Sportsbook in Franklin, Kentucky. Hope you guys come out, and we'll preview the USA matchup. We'll wrap up and recap minicamp if Buck decides to show up. But, stay tuned for what's going on at that East Nashville Hattie B's location. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. We are going to hear from Robert Saleh and his press conference to Kickoff Minicamp earlier today. But first, let's go to John up next to talk about Brendan Sorsby. Hey, John.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking the call. As I was telling earlier, first of all, let's go on the record to say that I'm an old fart. I am. I'm 75. But the one thing that I have been taught is my morals, respecting other people, what right is right and wrong is wrong. And, this quarterback from Texas Tech, he has this opportunity of being an elite athlete, to be that maybe less than 1% of the population get a shot at being a pro athlete, and then he goes and does this stupid stuff of gambling. And, let's just go back and look. Ryan Leaf, same situation. The quarterback from Vic, from Philadelphia, same situation. Ray was never proved in a court of law that he was involved in that shooting. But we have athletes killing people with cars, killing with guns.
Thanks for the call, John. Look, Michael Vick and Ryan Leaf, different situations. I mean, I think I get what you're saying in terms of athletes just fumbling their opportunity, right? Obviously, with Michael Vick, wasn't a gambling scandal that put him in prison. With Ryan Leaf, it was all sorts of stuff. Addiction, yes, but not necessarily gambling addiction. But I think you're talking about just generally athletes put in these positions that throw it away. And it's clear Brendan Sorsby had a serious problem, which is part of why the logic from Texas Tech never made sense to me, hiding behind the mental health aspect that the best thing for Sorsby was to just keep him in the environment in which he seemed to develop and foster this crippling gambling addiction. Again, from Sorsby, $90,000 approximately over 4 years lost in gambling. Just insane figures. But he did lose his opportunity. He almost didn't, but luckily there was enough pushback. And again, the Big 12 deserves a ton of credit here for not backing down on this and essentially forcing Sorsby's hand to say, you know what? It's not going to be worth this fight. I'm just going to go to the supplemental draft. And he's going to have an opportunity in the supplemental draft. The question is, how much does the NFL levy against him, and how interested will teams be in a talent like Sorsby? All right, Robert Saleh spoke earlier today to kick off minicamp. Believe they're still on the practice field as we speak, but we go now to the head coach's presser.
On break.
We did that last week. Yesterday was more physicals and did a little staff team bonding exercise, but they know the expectations. We'll hit those again on Thursday and just what they need to get done over the next 40 days and what we need to get done over the next 40 days to prepare ourselves for the season.
You had quite a bit of time leading up to this now. What have you learned about your football team as you get them all out here?
They'll do anything we ask. Really good group of kids, or young men, I should say, and so we're not worried about that. But like I said, it's from an OTA standpoint. Anyone who thinks they know their football team after a bunch of bobbleheads running around with big helmets on, they're lying to you. So.
Anybody have injuries or dings or concerns that'll keep them from being out there?
There's a couple guys that we're trying to work through here pre-activation, just see where they're at, but otherwise we should have a full roster.
When Cam misses, like an open receiver, what's the why for him usually,
Well, there's always going to be a couple of things, whether or not he's trying to, I shouldn't say force, but whether he's trying to hit tight windows, tying his feet. We talked about tying his feet into the progression of how he plays. So there's a bunch of things that he's going through, but overall, I mean, every quarterback is going to miss a couple here and there, but I think Cam's had done a really nice job throughout OTAs.
As you look back and see, some of the inaccuracies, some of the good things, like how do you balance that? Oh, well, it's just OTAs. There's still plenty of time to work. But then also like, hey, we got to get this right.
It's a little bit of both where all these guys are going to miss throws, whether it's, and knock on wood, have been around long enough. I would say Brock Purdy's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in all of football, and he would miss a lot of throws, and that's okay. These guys are all working on a few things here and there, but as we get closer, as he gets more comfortable with the system, as he gets more comfortable with what he's being asked to play in and play out, the expectation is that things start cleaning up. And so what he's doing now, I think, like I said, I think he's had an outstanding OTA. He's done a lot of really good things, especially in those move the ball periods. And like everybody on this team, the expectation is that he continues to get better.
Where do you guys stand with your progress on the option routes? To a layman's eye, it doesn't seem like many of the problems have been related to receivers read one thing and the quarterbacks read another thing. Where are you in the progress of those kind of things?
All of it's just a work in progress. We're all, like I said, they're all getting, with every passing day, they'll get more and more comfortable with one another. The timing of it all, the things that they're being asked to do. So again, this is all time and reps. Guys, we've had 9 practices. So we're not even close to where this team's going to get.
What's the complexity level of that in terms of receivers and quarterbacks reading things the same?
It is complex, especially with the way defenses muddy up, have grown to muddy up their coverage systems. We muddy it up with our shell and our disguises, but like I said, they're a heck of a lot better today than they were in week 1, first practice, and they'll continue to get better as the time goes.
How have you seen Tate kind of stack his days in the practices and the reps that he's got?
Same with all the rookies. I'm going to kind of clump them into that in the sense that, they get here, they're so out of shape, and so they're just trying to get themselves physically caught up in that regard, and he's done a really nice job from a practice standpoint, as they all have. And again, they get here, they're 5 weeks behind in terms of not just physically, but the mental part of it in terms of install. So all of them have done a really nice job playing catch up and putting themselves in a position to compete.
This has become Jeff's team the last couple of years, and obviously he just came in last week. Are you looking forward to seeing kind of what he brings emotionally, leadership-wise to the practice field for you these couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to have everybody out here, but I think, especially for the D-line in our system, it's not going to show up till training camp. There's just a different speed, a different level of violence. The expectations of what we ask out of the O-line and D-line, once we get to training camp and the pads come on, changes dramatically. The speed at the way we operate should filter out to the skill guys in the back 7. So, like I said, excited to have the guys out here, but again, we're in shorts, so it's not going to really affect anything.
So what's the goal for them then this week, the D-line specifically? What's the metric that you're using to measure?
Should just come out here, have a good couple of days of. It's really individual because you're still going 3/4 speed with regards to teamwork. But come in and compete, work your tail off an individual, get a good lift in, and get yourself ready to kickstart your 40 days.
Where would you say you made your biggest strides, or what's pleased you the most from April until now in your break camp?
I'd just say the way that I feel like our guys have absorbed the systems. Speaking from a defensive standpoint, I feel like our guys have done a really nice job. We've been such a heavy match team. At least this organization has, and where our system is more vision on the quarterback, and it took almost 5 practices for our guys to start really locking in on that quarterback to try to get and trusting their eyes in that regard, and trusting that their bodies, putting their bodies in certain positions will put them in position to make plays, and then obviously offensively, eliminating the mental errors, guys just operating faster, running routes at the depth they need to run them, and just working on the overall timing. So like the way all three phases have absorbed the systems and have grown from day one till now has been really good.
How much will things change for Cam and the targets with a more complete or fully complete secondary on the field, man?
Say that one more time.
How much will things change for Cam and the receivers with your full secondary out there? I know you haven't had.
We haven't at all. Guys dealing with a couple of injuries here and there, but it should be more competitive, and anytime you get good on good and guys competing, the competition level will only elevate.
Yes, more of a follow-up to his question. In terms of the secondary guys, what have you seen from guys like Callaghan and Micah Robinson getting those reps with the ones that they normally wouldn't get?
Heck yeah, no, any time. I've said this before. There isn't a single guy in the locker room that thinks he's a backup. There's not a single guy in the locker room that doesn't think that if they got the opportunity to play that they can't produce at that same level. And it's our job to make sure that they're in position to make the plays that anyone can make. And, a lot of times, and I've said this before, and I'm not talking about the Jeffrey Simmons of the world, your superstars, but the difference between player A and Z in this league is very, 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 very small. And and most of the time, it's just a matter of getting an opportunity to go out there and compete. So the fact that those guys got a chance to compete and get all these reps has been really good.
How much more guys following the situation with Brendan Sorsby? Just how would you evaluate a situation like that as a coach, evaluate talent, and do you address the whole gambling stuff with your team, or do you kind of trust them to sort it out on that?
It's part of the NFL curriculum. They're educated on gambling every single year. I have no comment on the young man, but I know the NFL does a really good job educating our players on what they can and can't do.
What's your philosophy on this week, sort of in general? Is it sort of a continuation?
It's an extension of OTAs.
Is there any part of like a midterm process with these guys, or just
no? Because you're still limited to the same rules.
Are you a kind of a random place in installation, or are you at a particular place that you timed up for these 2 days?
Yeah, they're both offensively and defensively. We'll throw some wrinkles in there. The idea is that your OTAs and training camp they mirror in terms of your install schedule. And so we've had 9 practices, and usually you have your install in between 8 and 10 practices in. So this week is more like, hey, let's just try a couple of wrinkles here and there, or just try to introduce a couple of things, but for the most part, everything's in.
For you personally, like the interaction with Cam Ward, where like if you see something that needs to be corrected and you correct that with him, how does that process, how has that been, and what's some of your feedback that you've gotten from him, just as far as his ability to take that constructive criticism and apply it?
He can take any criticism you throw at him. I've said it before, he moves on to the next play very quickly. He wants to know what he needs to get done. He has no ego to him, so just a lot of times he recognizes what the mistake was before you even get to him. But if you have a coaching point for him, he's very receptive to all of it.
Right. Thanks, guys.
All right, there's Titans head coach Robert Saleh with some high praise for Cam Ward there on the way out. Again, offensive coordinator Brian Dable and defensive coordinator Gus Bradley spoke earlier today. We will play that for you tomorrow in its entirety in the 10 o'clock hour. Some potential pass rush help was on the field for the Titans today. Could there be another signing looming? We'll tell you who coming up next. Wrapping things up on a Tuesday, 615-737-1045. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. We teased it before hitting the break. The Titans with some potential pass rush help on the field, and the Saints are bringing back some pass rush help. We'll start, of course, with the Titans' Nick Suss of the Tennessean posting a picture from day one of minicamp. Robert, tell me if you remember one Tano Pasano.
Tano Pasano.
Pasano.
Never.
I believe, if I remember correctly, and looking at the phonetic spelling, Tano, Tanoh.
Oh, and his name's spelled weird. He used to play for the Chiefs.
Yes. KpassaGnon. Pasano, or
Yeah.
Pasano.
There you go.
Right. So,
Whichever way.
he was on the field today for the Titans. They have not signed him, and teams do have the ability to have tryout guys on the field for minicamp. So it could very well be a tryout situation. Former second-round pick of the Chiefs. Now, for Titans fans, that name may sound slightly familiar, and that's because Pasano, second-rounder out of Villanova, of all places, to Kansas City in the 2017 draft, had one of the best games of his career against the Titans in the AFC Championship game. Had 2 sacks on Ryan Tannehill in that game in the 2019 season. But didn't necessarily pan out in Kansas City, didn't get that second contract, ended up in New Orleans. 4 years in New Orleans, spent last year, cup of coffee, in Chicago, then in Indianapolis, practice squad player, was released by the Colts in November, did not finish out the season on an NFL team. So it seems as though he is essentially in the building for a tryout this week at minicamp. But was a talented player coming out, high upside player, is a Super Bowl champion from his time in Kansas City, his career high in a regular season, 4 sacks in 2019, where he had 2 more in the postseason, again against the Titans, and then 4 sacks in 2021 playing for the Saints. So we'll see if more pass rush help is on the way from the 6'7", 289-pound edge rusher. There it is. Meanwhile, Cam Jordan's coming back to New Orleans. We thought we may finally see the day that Cam Jordan, at the age of like 49 or whatever he is, does not play for the New Orleans Saints. Ian Rappaport reporting that the Saints are bringing him back on a 1-year incentive-laden deal. He visited today in New Orleans. What does a visit in New Orleans for Cam Jordan entail? Yes, this is our locker room. These are where the bathrooms are.
Very nice. And where are the po' boys? Good for him.
36 years old.
Good for Saints fans. I mean, it's always tough to watch a player who means so much to your franchise get into the older years of their career, and you have to wonder, hey, are they worth top end money like they were when they were a young kid, a young spring chicken? He's consistently been worth whatever they paid him.
10.5 sacks last year.
Yeah, double-digit sacks for a dude that's been around since Nam. Glad he gets to stay in the Saints. Glad the Saints fans get to keep one of their guys. That's always a big deal.
We are in a great era, I feel like, of guys at that position, D-line, edge, and the longevity of their careers. And you know, as the NFL evolves, we're seeing that sort of longevity improve, certainly at the quarterback position, right? Like the sort of cutoff where you say a quarterback is no longer at the peak of his powers, age-wise, just keeps getting pushed back, right? I mean, we just saw Matt Stafford have arguably the best season of his career, winning his first MVP at, 37? Cam Jordan, 10.5 sacks at 36. He'll be 37 this season. We're seeing it with Calais Campbell. We see it with Cam Hayward in Pittsburgh. I don't know. I feel like we're just in a good spot right now for those aging D linemen, edge rushers that just keep doing it, man. And he's going to stay in New Orleans.
I wonder how that's going to change as time goes on. Like 10 years from now, when medical things keep advancing.
Yeah, when we're living to be 150.
God, you see, I think that would be miserable.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to do that. I'm good.
Yeah, at like 85 or 86, be like, you good? You want out of here?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I've had enough. Pull the lever, Kronk. Send me through. We're going to have dudes playing in their 50s.
That's entirely dependent, though, on whether or not your team has won a championship in that time.
Ooh,
right?
Yeah, if you're like still holding on and waiting, you're like, I need it.
Like 90 years old.
Come on.
Vols have been on the cusp for the last few years. Still, right there. Gotten to the semifinal of the 68-team college football playoff.
Can you imagine if you You're going to be like 60 and you're like, I can't deal with another rebuild. I can't watch the Vols. We got to do something, man. What would be your cutoff, dude? What would be the...
Yeah, imagine having to rebuild at 85. Like, no, I'm not doing this.
I refuse.
Not now.
I just like Georgia now.
I'm retired. Retiring as a fan.
My buddy who has only known the Ravens in the Lamar Jackson era, he is so spoiled. Like, oh, what would we do? He thinks every option would be as good as Lamar if we had to move off. Oh, they'll find somebody else. No, they might not, and they probably won't. There are very few NFL teams that are just taking the lucky pill of always having a quarterback. Like the Colts for a minute when they had Peyton and Luck. The Packers. Going from Favre, Rodgers, Love. Like
Niners.
Very few teams have the luxury of being good and staying good decades after decades after decades.
Yes.
I mean, ask Bills fans how long they sat and waited with sitting on their hands, trying not to clap from how ass they were. It's tough. It's tough. I also appreciate everybody coming out to the golf tournament that was out there yesterday.
It was awesome.
It was so much fun. My left side of my body is a reddish hue that the left side of my body cannot fathom because my left arm and left leg were hanging out of the golf cart all day. I'm going to put it on Zone TV. This leg...
Oh, my God. It looks like somebody spray painted your leg pink.
I wish you could see the difference between the top of my leg.
It is so pink.
The other leg, just fine. Don't worry, guys. I will be back to my Mr. Krabs pinkish color before long.
Well, speaking of station events, we are officially 1 month away from the Split Happens Bowling Bash out at Eastside Bowl.
That's right.
So go get your tickets, 104.5 The Zone. Really cool spot. You won't get sunburned there. Great food, great drinks, full bar, billiards. We will have a ton of lanes, $40 for 3 hours of bowling and hanging out, enjoying the night with us. Again, July 16th. Go to 1045thezone.com. Hope to see you guys there.
I bowled a 180 2 weeks ago. People better be getting ready.
All right. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Cover 2 is next.